Yo, hello. How are you guys doing? This is the Bob and I, the Bomb Pounds podcast, and I'm your host with the most, raising up a blunt most of the times for its host. You know how it goes. Hey, I'm on the West Coast and I keep it flowing. You know how we do it. Hey, guys, I hope you guys are having an amazing time out there in 2023. Things are shifting rapidly. Energy is moving very constant. Our spirituality is going up and down in a tantrum, but you guys need to stay grounded. And you know who helps us stay grounded? My boy, Jonathan Buttes from Natural Action Technologies. How you doing, bud?
What's up, bro?
Shit, I'm doing amazing.
You're a little quiet.
Yeah? What do you mean?
Let me
How about
see
now?
here. Let me see if it's on my end.
Might be yours. Hello? How you guys doing?
Here you go.
Okay. Yeah, there we go.
Fair enough.
Yeah, how's it going, John?
Good. How you doing on this fine Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm doing awesome. I'm drinking some kombucha. 76ers just won. I feel great.
76ers, you're an East Coast fan?
Well, yeah. I'll be honest. I love Philadelphia. The name is in the Bible, but I'm also a big fan of it being one of America's founding locations. And, you know, it's one of those areas that's just mystical.
Fair enough. You got me good on the mic here?
Yeah. You know, the Philadelphia experiment was out there in Philadelphia, and
right.
I think that there's some magic.
You're talking some Tesla magic shit there.
Yeah, it's definitely some magical stuff going on there. And you know what? If we look at it from a whole different world, you know, George Washington had angels above him, right? And he wasn't supposed to win, but, you know, he won. You know, Philadelphia is a huge part of that whole scenario, Philadelphia experiment and the time traveling. I would imagine that the Battle of Earth and the Battle of Good versus Light goes on right there in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, more than we know.
You ever been there?
Nope.
It's kind of it's kind of a shithole.
Yeah, I hear right now that it's very bad.
Yeah,
but
it's not
I would
good.
imagine, 100, 200 years ago, it wasn't that far from Niagara Falls.
Shit.
And
everything was pretty
Lakes.
good until they started building fucking cities, right?
Well, I don't think it's the cities. I think it's more the
I don't know.
entities,
Once
man.
you build that many buildings and pave it over, like it kind of, in my opinion, that's what invites the entities.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Have you ever watched that show Archive 81?
On
Netflix? It's very interesting. It's in New York, right? And it shows like the early 1900s hotel being bought over by this rich family, and the rich family starts doing occultic magic into it, and in the basement, and entities for the next 100 years start freaking damaging the property, starts messing with the people. It pretty much opens up a gateway, and it's like, I wonder if these dudes are doing that. Yeah,
there's some evidence to say there's some intent there beyond what the normal human being would probably do on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, legitimately, the family in that movie came there to the hotel to do that specifically. They were literally like, yeah, we want to do our devil magic, whatever. And it's actually interesting that two of the people referenced were Blavatsky and Crowley. They used different first names, but the same last names. And I was like, I wonder who this is about. That reminds me, though, like, it goes on nowadays still. If you just heard in Colombia, I covered this a couple days ago, in Colombia, about 20-some schoolgirls were just hospitalized for playing with the Ouija board. And it was just last year that 10 more schoolgirls were traumatized from the Ouija board.
Yeah, I did a Ouija with, I think, my basketball team in like 8th grade. And like the entire basketball team cleared out of a room we were working in, and it went like wild. You know what I mean? I guarantee you that's the last time. I think me and my good bud, we played with the Ouija board one more time, and it wasn't like crazy. But when we had like 10 people there, like it went ape shit. And like everybody was like, okay, this is real. We're out of here. And 10 guys like destroyed each other trying to get down a stairwell out of like one of our attic rooms in the home, you know. But we had some bona fide crazy shit going on where like the entire basketball team was like, get me the fuck out of here, like right now. Like, and that was like 14 years old. I think me and my buddy played with it like 2 weeks later, and we got like a softer, weird thing out of it. And everybody, like all our parents, we all grew up Catholic, right, or Christian or whatever. And all the parents were like, don't do that. And we're like, why? If it doesn't work, if it doesn't exist, if it's no big deal, then what is it about this that we shouldn't do it? But it was some serious shit, man. Like, you know, I've been out in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of nowhere, next to grizzly bears at night who were pissed off trying to eat something, and I would put this like way above that as far as get the hell out of here.
Yeah, man, when you start messing with sigils, runes, mantras, and you start putting intention and your spirit into these other realms of possibilities, these things speak to you. They comes out to you.
Well, it comes down to, in my opinion, like why it's ultimately not like explored more is because like really people are afraid of the power of themselves or the power of the human being to manifest, to invite, to bring in, to, you know, to broaden the universe and open the mind up, right? But we all go to fear and we're like, oh shit, we're gonna die. It's like you're gonna die anyways.
Yeah, our human spirit is very potential with what we can collect from the outside realms and what we can bring in and what we can see. And yeah, I do see that most people aren't really attuned. They're not really that strong or familiar with how to control themselves. So it is a very troublesome experience for the unaware. And for people like us, it's not really so troubling. I think, when we have the protection, when we understand not how to go and call out the fallen angels or the wickedest of spirits or do this extra blood magic that's with it, we don't really
has no intention of trying to destroy anything. Its primary dictate is to build things, you know what I mean? So when we make it like dark and evil, we're like, ooh, it's powerful, but in the end, like, it's only powerful to teach lessons. And what lesson can we learn from all of that shit came from out of nowhere that was really like scary, that motivates people to like run, fight, activates them, right? It's activating energy.
Well, I think that it speaks to our otherworldly connection. Our spirit is coming from another plane, another higher source, and we are, if I guess we're strong enough, conscious enough, if we have enough consciousness power from our spirit, we're constantly trying to send each other messages.
Could be a lower source too.
Well, yeah. So for the most part, most of my crowd, I would imagine, is on the higher realms. But so, our spirit from there is constantly trying to send us messages and remind us and trying to get us back to what the true knowledge is. And yeah, as you just said, for the other side, they're on the darker
side. The lower side that's what suffering is. That's what makes you move. Without suffering, you just sit there and be in, neutral zone or apathetic or high as a kite all the time, whether it's legitimate or induced. The lower forces are powerful, man. That's what makes you realize this shit is fact. This is true. So it has its own value, right? Hopefully you're not like dumb enough to like anchor yourself in there where you're constantly suffering. But why suffer is a valid conversation, right? Like, that's what moves you. You wouldn't when you're stuck, the only thing that moves you is when you suffer. That's what gives you the energy to overcome, right, adversity and all these things. So what do you got some Air Jordan on there? I'm looking at your get up, man. You're all March Madness out.
Oh, yeah, no, this is a Philadelphia 76ers All-Star jersey. Embiid.
Oh, okay.
Joel Embiid. Yeah, he's awesome, man. He's averaging like 30, 40 points a game.
You following Jordan in racing? He got pretty heavy into NASCAR.
No, I just seen that he was selling his team, though. He's decided to sell his NBA team. Yeah.
Yeah, he got into racing. It's a lot more expensive than basketball.
A lot more money income from the racing? Is that what you're saying?
No, it costs a lot more money to make money. Yeah, he got into racing with Denny Hamlin, the number 11 car. So, yeah, he's super big time into NASCAR now.
Yeah, Jordan is always about the hustle. I've seen this awesome article, though, of he ran out cocaine in the 80s in NBA. I guess there was a lot of cocaine players, and because Jordan was so good, he like just ran him out of office. Hey, that's awesome. Some of these guys, they live such a high-profile life, and I don't always think they're evil, but they do have to play a little dirty, Jordan. He's not necessarily the best. He's kind of an asshole. All right,
well, I mean, at that level, like, they're kind of all, it's a lot of ego there to hold that position of the best,
But it's not like Magic Johnson, where Magic Johnson literally lied about his whole life just for the money. He's like, wait, you guys are gonna expose my gambling, but you guys just want me to cover up and say I got AIDS? All right, fuck it. And he did. Jordan talks about that.
Yeah, and I will say this: like, nobody was more dedicated to the art of the sport of basketball and more intense than Jordan. When he was on the court, man, like, he was driven. You know what I mean? You could just tell, like, that guy was like, he loved the final shot. He loved the challenge, and he was a very graceful, like intense player. I mean, very strong. You know what I mean? Kind of. If I had like today, when you watch basketball, you know, and you look at LeBron James's style and different players, maybe there's a little Isaiah Thomas types coming back in, but when you watch them play, like in the Jordan, like Isaiah Thomas era, like they were all like extremely graceful. Like they would go to the hoop and do some shit underneath where you're like, what the hell was that? Nowadays it's just kind of like more like football, like just plow it in there, get the foul. So it's interesting to watch all these games change and how they're played, and like how some things are better now, but like back then, like the amount of gracefulness and shit. When you look at Larry Bird and all the different ways these guys pulled off their weaknesses and strengths, I mean, Larry Bird was not a very athletic person, but he learned to work with his shit to like just crush it. I mean, you want to talk about ego? Bird was like the biggest shit talker ever on the court. You know what I mean?
And they had the purpose. They had everything behind them. I'll be honest, as you said, they had more technicality. They had more control of their body. Nowadays, yeah, it's just their bodies are all flailing everywhere. It's not really the same game.
Well, it's like it's like build a machine and fight it out, and then what everybody does. Like this is kind of what I say about racing and basketball and how it evolved. Like it's really hard to watch because like nobody really plays like the full on effort until like the end of the game. So it's like you're watching like practice for 7/8 of the game or 3/4 of the game, whatever. And it's a little different, but at any rate, it's like here's where it like gets reality. Prior to that, everybody's just kind of cruising, and it's hard to watch because you can tell they're not really trying, they're not really putting effort in. But it's a lot more strategic and business. Like everything's business, make money, put on a good show. And I used to not like that, but the reality is like it's true. It's a show. You know what I mean? In the end, it's a show. If people aren't entertained by it and don't watch it, and they're entertained for different reasons. And in my opinion, for good or for bad, sports was dying like during the first recession and in modern times of like '09, which, it's all artificial. I get that. It's all psychology. But sports really died out. And then they opened up gambling. And what I saw was both men and women filled up bars because they had skin in the game. So the sports like repopularized themselves through legalized gambling and putting skin in the game, which kind of makes it all the more disgusting for me because they're not really fans. They're only fans because they have skin in the game. So it's like the amount of real fans we have for basketball, baseball, football, soccer, rugby, like racing, this type of racing, it's like really small. And they like sucked the mainstream who wasn't really interested in like why. Like I was interested in sports because it's like watching the best of the best do exceptional things. And what do they do to achieve that? Like, what's their philosophy? You know what I mean? What's the mindset underneath what it takes to do that? But now it's kind of like the fans are, it's more average, which, I don't care. It's just kind of not as much for me at that point. Like I find myself like following it less and less, watching it. I tend to support more the grassroots version of all of it. So I'd rather go watch a minor league baseball team or a high school football team or watch a local race, I think that's
it all boils down to the main agenda that we tackle here in this program. Around 100 years ago, this battle for humanity really started kicking off with the Rockefeller Institution trying to go ahead and overwrite humanity from the inside out. Control us through the DNA inside of us, control the water inside of our soil, control the chemicals inside of our food, control the knowledge inside of our school books, control the images and audio inside of our minds and ears coming through the programming.
Do you think that is like I guess I'll just skip to the term evil, like inherently evil versus inherently going everything's not good enough. I know, like a God complex. Like, does the God complex become evil where Rockefeller starts out, fairly decent, trying to improve things, improve the quality of life, right? And realizes human beings don't have the discipline to develop the habits or the knowledge, or do you just think it's like almost like a possession that's, or do you think it starts out like and then moves to a possession based on ego of like fucking control this like it's a robot? You know what I mean? Don't allow it to live, control this and fix it and put it back on the battlefield. You know what I mean? Is that evil? Is it a blend of the two? Because you're into
Yeah,
the,
it's like a blend of the two where I
yeah,
think that
that's what I
there's
would
this
say.
ancient evil, this possession that, our spirits have came down from the heavens, like God breathed life into us. So from the heavens, he breathed down spirits into bodies. Now the people up here aren't really the evil ones. The fallen angels came down here to the earth, right? They got kicked down, whatever. Let's just say, it's them, these evil ones that are here on this plane, constantly doing this for thousands of generations, hypothetically, right? And a little bit of this computer AI. I understand that, even in times of Enki and Enlil, there was like these computers, and
Right.
imagine the
How stupid do you think that is to like like think you can logic out the complexity of life in the universe? You know what I mean? Like AI, like artificial, right? Number one, intelligence. What the fuck does that mean? And how could, if it's programmed by a human being, how could it be beyond the singularity of a human being or that human being's close cohorts, which are obviously going to be like them, right? Like, you're not going to hang out with people who have diametrically opposed opinions and philosophies about how to do things, because it'll just be a constant fight. So, it's like I think about the amount of like older businessmen that like kiss Elon Musk's ass. And I'm kind of like, why don't you figure out how to make an Airbus go across the world comfortably, more fuel efficient, rather than shooting dicks into space without, the only value that has is if you pack it full of dicks and send them bye bye, right? So it's like we're shooting giant dicks into space, and we have an electric car which was invented in 1900, and just because the thing's fast and kind of like trendy as far as how the interior is done. And I don't have anything against the machine. It's a sweet machine. Like I'm a machine
Sam
builder.
Bowman says it's from demons.
I mean, like when you look at it, I'm like, why don't you do something fucking useful rather than blow trillions of dollars of taxpayers' money, right? Because his business isn't solvent. That's all grant money. That's all fucking a bunch of bullshit again. But the amount of like 60 and 70-year-old businessmen who kiss his ass, I'm kind of like, they get you every time. They get you every time. And Elon Musk is no different. You could tell, like for me, the turning point when they were like, his company name's Tesla. He didn't start the company. He was hired to take over the original Tesla by, mining and banksters and the usual money crowd. So they finally figure out if you make a fast car, people will buy it. And if you got the fast car 0 to 60 and you're the big dog on the block, that every up and coming will buy that thing because it's new. It's not a smoker. But Jesus Christ, boring. Like, I'll take a well-tuned, sound-tuned racing engine any day of the week. I mean, you go listen to racing because of the sound. It's just badass. Then you listen to electric cars and it's like, oh, and then they just burst up into flames because they overheat. They have no reliability when you put them under pressure. And this is what this guy's doing. That guy's like, oh, he's really innovative. He's really this. He's really that. I'm like, dude, he's wasting money, taxpayer dollars, on doing shit we already did in the 1960s, 50 years ago, and they made a modern day version with a marketing twist of a car that was fucking invented over 100 years ago. That's the reality. I haven't seen, solar panels and, smart regulators. Oh, gee, solar's 30 years old and now you're going to regulate it smartly. What? Tie it to your smartphone and tell you about what's going on with it. Like, to me, it's like, it's like the new GM, it's like the new Boeing, but it's Tesla and Elon Musk. And then they ask him about Tesla. Does that guy ever talk about anything that Tesla ever did? Like, if you named your company Tesla, oh, that's right, you didn't name it. You stole the fucking company from somebody else who was actually innovative. And here he is all over the place telling you how you need my. Remember when it was like there was 2 years on YouTube of you need my brain chip to keep up with AI. Remember that shit?
Yeah.
It's like this guy's supposedly one of the smartest guys in the world, and he's selling that you need a brain chip to keep up with fucking his computer programs. Get the fuck out of Dodge,
I think
man.
that was the start of the MK Ultra.
Yeah.
A few years ago, they really needed to go ahead and MK Ultra the world, and this whole operation, this CV operation, is a huge MK Ultra. It's putting people in delusional mind states. They're physically getting attacked and literally overwhelmed by energies. I mean, and this mRNA can literally overtake you, like literally can control your
Have you
brain.
have you seen that shit where they like always look to their right and then they pass out? And
Yeah,
there was people who like look to their right and spin and pass out and like fell in front of trains, like in subways and shit.
yeah.
And like
I would imagine.
I don't get too into that, but when you see like 100 different videos from around the world of that same like dance and pass out, I'm like, I can't say for a fact what the hell's going on, but there's something seriously wrong with. Was that like testing with, like I always said the cell phone towers were weapons system that they sold as, I think we've talked about this before, like nuclear power plants provide power, but really they're breeding nuclear weapons in society. And like that sounds like a conspiracy, but that, like, from my knowledge, that's a factual design because they're like totally different. Like the military in operation uses completely different types of nuclear reactors than what you find in the civilian world. And when you ask the question, why wouldn't you use the safe one in the civilian world and the dangerous one in the military world? You think we would use the dangerous ones in the military world? No, it's the opposite way around. And it's the same damn thing with the cell phone towers. Is like those are systems because they couldn't really figure out how to do it at long range very well, certain people. So you see these layers of technology, like, right, like somebody's using the F-16 when in fact we have the F-22 already, right? And
Yeah, so
you sell your older shit, right? So to me, cell phone towers by definition were weapons system that were sold to the communication industry. That's my
and they've been
opinion.
have rolled out over the last few years, specifically, because places like NASA and the World Economic Forum have combined in order to, in their own agenda, take control of humans from the inside out, because humans don't have the proper will, they don't have the proper mentality. They are really trying to turn us into these what is it, artificial robots. As the head of NASA, one of their main dudes, has always said, uh, sooner or later, robots will be the superior ones. AI will be the superior
How
ones.
fucking ridiculous do you think that statement is? I just think it's so ridiculous. I can't even. Now, I'm not saying robots and AI won't have the ability to manipulate people. That's already been going on for a long time. I'm just saying, how ridiculous do you think that, like, a biomech uh, synergy between the two, like, how weak is that? Where you're like, oh yeah, I need to, that like the divine didn't know how to create a good human being. I need to cheat it. I need to supplant it. I need to modify it. And I think creativity wise, that's great. If you have dancing robots, you know what I mean? And dancing, like, if robots are doing the work that doesn't inspire human beings, that's a machine, in my opinion. That's not a living thing, and that's not representative of a living thing, and that's not even anthropomorphizing, even though if we build it in the likeness, that's like a tribute to the divine that, hey, we recognize how the human body works, and so we built a simile that can do the things we don't want to do, But that means like then you need to go play music and dance and love and explore. And we don't do any of that really anymore. There's nothing to explore. Everything's been discovered. A satellite's got a picture of everything. You don't need to do that. Like music, well, we can just program that. You don't need to play that. Like dance, well, oh shit, we have to like we can't be like you've seen all the movies, right? So AI and robots take over and then you like put on a what do they call that? Virtual reality, and then you live your life sitting in a chair doing virtual reality, and this whole fucked up, destroyed planet and world's going around it. And it's like, so we've seen the idea, but that's not a reality anybody would do. But that's clearly where it heads. And
And this is where
you keep rolling. My dog's gonna kill me
no,
if
that's
I don't
fine.
let her out.
So
Keep talking.
this is where authors like Zen Garcia have came in very clutch. I have listened to Zen Garcia for quite some time, and he speaks heavily on the fallen angel technologies, the Nephilim technologies, what we understand as the ancient Babylonian Empire and their abuse of humankind, turning us into slaves. And this is all ancient traditions passed down being implemented through newer technologies. Yes, my dog is literally crying right now. And, when we see this coming towards humans, we got to understand that what is around us may not be human. I mean, there's all
What
this
is
talk about
human?
Elon Musk. Right.
What is
So
human?
I think we're like some golem. I think that we are just God's golems, and
We're like on the line of pathogen and symbiote, and we can extremely do those both very well. But the collective is kind of being, let's just say, black magic into being a pathogen. Like they think that's being a pathogen is the normal way to survive. That's what we're taught, in my opinion. We're programmed that. And I don't know if it's like, you know, if you've heard the like psychology study on the monkeys and the bananas, right? Have I talked about that one before?
no, explain.
So, like, it was either the Rockefeller Group or the Rothschild Group, like, funded a university to study the behavior of monkeys, and they had a monkey like lair, and then they had steps going up, and at the top of the steps was a fire hose, and they fed the monkeys like artificial bullshit. But then they would hang bananas right on the nose of the fire hose. And in the beginning, the first tribe that they raised, like somebody in the tribe like went up and tried to get the bananas because they knew it was way better food than the artificial bullshit they were getting. And then there would be a guy with a fire hose and he would shoot the monkey back down the steps with the fire hose. And like they tried hard for a long time, but eventually that tribe quit. And then the second generation, they let them breed, right? And so the juniors came out, and the young kids were like, fuck, there's bananas up there, and this, I'm not going to eat this dog shit. So the younger kids would go up the steps and get blasted. And then in the third or the fourth or the fifth generation, in some percentage, the younger monkeys never went up the steps and tried to get the bananas anymore. And they actually unmanned the fire hose. Nobody was there to shoot anybody, and like 3 generations went by and nobody tried to go get the bananas. They epigenetically programmed the desire for the monkey to eat bananas and natural food out of the whole civilization in that study.
It's pretty much like
what do you think they're doing?
Rope around the horse.
What do you think they learned from that? And what do you think they're doing to the human race? They ain't nobody manning the fire hose, and ain't nobody want to go grab the bananas anymore.
Well, one of the things they want to do is destroy our connection to the heavens and destroy our connection to God, being able to get messages from God.
That's the banana, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Misty, and then now we see like, you got to let your dog out.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and talk,
go ahead. I'll promote Paul.
All right.
So we've talked about Paul Laviolette before. He was kind of like, I wouldn't say a close friend, but a distant friend, maybe highly connected on, what we were into and what we were trying to discover. And I'm not a pimple on his ass, but for those of you watching, Paul died last December. And I went and I bought like all his books again. I bought multiples of them and I started rereading them. And, I think I first read them in 2010 ish. So 13 years later, after rereading them, I guess I'm a little wiser because I'm like, wow, this is like super cool. And I had him speak at a convention for our company for Natural Action in 2018. And he was kind of long-winded, and he was dealing with cancer back then. It's one of them deals where I wanted to pull him aside and be like, dude, you need to look at these things. But he's like one of the most brilliant guys I've ever met, talked to, communicated with, read about his work. And it was one of them deals where it's really weird, where I'm like, man, I can hook you up with people who can help you out with your cancer. Like if you go after what you got now, like it won't be an issue. But it was also one of them things where like people are on their own journeys, and you know, uh, you can't get people to really change their state. And he was so dedicated to his work and research, I don't think he like really ever correlated it all with the human body and how it works. But he was a unified model and the most correct in history, and it's well documented in multiples of his books. So if I had to suggest, and you can't read these things and comprehend them all at once, but Genesis of the Cosmos, good starting spot. And you might understand like a few paragraphs in each chapter, and most people will grasp one chapter in particular. And this is like my favorite one, my new favorite one, Earth Under Fire. And that is the cracking of the riddle of the Sphinx and what the zodiac really means on the foundation. And there's enough evidence in anti cryptology for you to go, wow, it might not be pure, but 4 out of 5, this is real shit. And then the real capper on it is decoding of the pulsars, which is how the star system communicates with us, or somebody set up a natural communication system. Doesn't matter. In the end, it is what it is, of how to do interstellar travel in a better way. And that kind of culminates with the secrets of anti-gravity propulsion, which I believe is a good introduction into like how to do all that. So like he had so many books, and there's subquantum kinetics, which I don't recommend unless you're into physics and kind of scaling like this technology. But in the end, the order, Genesis of the Cosmos, uh, and this one is a super good read. I mean, he's a smart guy, so it's tough. Earth Under Fire, it's about the historical impulses from the sun. I got some takes on water and why water is what it is and what it does in relationship to those impulses. And then this one again, decoding of the pulsars. That's how stars communicate with us and have a Morse code language with us. So like we might not like know Morse code, but like all of us at night are receiving impulses from the solar system that mean things. And then in the end, for the engineers and the military guys and those who want to learn about how we can do that and why we might want to travel, like we don't need to travel like to get to Mars, the planet that we already smoked once, to get away from things. We need to travel to explore and have fun and go learn things from other beings in the universe. And that's what expands life, not trying to run away from a planet we're destroying because we don't realize the beauty of the bigger picture. So, all right, I gave my Paul Laviolette tribute and push, and I'm really enjoying rereading his books. And now I know which order they should go in. Like when I didn't know how it all connected together, but now I see after he died, when I went and reread everything, that there's a serious order to like, there's a first grade, a second grade, a third grade, a fourth grade, and a fifth grade to his book set. And subquantum kinetics was the unified model that wrote these 4 books. Nobody really needs to go dig into that one because it's well covered in these 4. Like I said, unless you're like an engineer, unless you want to do this to scale in the future, then by all means check out subquantum mechanics because it's the physics underneath these 4 books. And tribute to Paul, salute to Paul, cheers to Paul. Nice salute, man. It's almost like you were actually in. You weren't.
Yeah, I
in
was
the
in for 2
military,
years.
You were?
And my grandparents were, my uncles are, and I think I have a lot of military blood in me.
Yeah,
it's kind of by
got
nature. Yeah, I literally got the military gene. Whatever they did to us,
no, that was a good
I got
salute.
it.
I'm like, man, I would guess he was serving. I gotta let my screamer back in so you roll.
Okay, yeah. So actually, in basic training, the drill sergeant looked at me and called me out. He's like, "Hey, man, you want to go ahead and be up here and be the platoon leader?" And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Dude, you look just like the fit. You look you like you got it. You know, you're strong, you're bold. You know, you're kind of small, but you're bigger than your body." And yeah, literally, so I was just saying, the drill sergeant called me out in boot camp. He's like, "Hey, you want to come up here and be the platoon leader?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "Why?" He's like, "You know, you got it, man. You're strong, you're bold." I was like, all right, let's go ahead and try it out." And you know, speaking of our desire to learn from other worlds, that's kind of where I was getting with Mr. Elon Musk, where I wanted to get to. So Elon Musk, right? There's this conspiracy. As we know, in Werner von Braun's final book, he actually made a prediction. I mean, a very weird prediction. In the book, it referenced a man from Mars coming over to Earth to take over Earth. And in there, the man was named Elon. And he wanted to take people, he wanted to build a civilization to get back to Mars, I think, also. And I mean, the book goes crazy, right? So we understand that the Germans with Werner von Braun were best friends with the Japanese, right? And it just so happens to be that Elon Musk's major expedition to the moon has a Japanese billionaire who is the first person to go ahead and be on Elon's list. I mean, just a weird coincidence, right? Now, when we look at some other weird things about Elon, you know, it just doesn't seem like he's a human. You know, we look back in the world and there's all these references to other alien races, you know, even the native tribes. We look at hieroglyphic type of structures and scriptures and all around the world. It's the same story. We have other entities around us, and you know, just around 150 years ago, all of these stories were being removed from our textbooks by the churches and by the governments because they want to simplify, and they want to
the collusion of church and state, right?
Yeah, I mean, church is a broad term, but you know, we mean the governmental
institution.
churches.
It's an
the institutionalized churches.
Yeah.
Because we do know that there are some raw home churches who, you know, don't play that shit and who keep it real, you know, with their studies and practices. I actually have started attending a church, and they don't like any of that mainstream BS. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, so looking back at Elon and these other alien races, I'm just wondering, you know, over the last 100 years, if that's what we've been seeing. We've been seeing an influence of these races. We know for a fact that Eisenhower, you know, was a huge proponent in all of this. You know, with the Greta Treaty. And, you know, I'm actually right here in the Yakima Valley. Eisenhower is just 30 minutes away. There's a high school, right? And his family was just around another hour away. So his family owned all these lands. And the Project Manhattan Hanford facility was built around the same times. understandably, if we look at nuclear facilities and their relation to UFOs and to deuterium and to these, actually not just deuterium is made with hydrogen, but these other plutoniums, uraniums, and these other highly radioactive isotopes and all this shit, right? Whatever. It's because of UFOs. There's been a lot of talk in the 70s and the 80s that these things are with UFOs, and linking it all together, alien races, higher dimensional technology, we have been interacting with alien races, and that's what we've been seeing, man. These, I don't know about Venus, the Venusians with, like I said, President Eisenhower and Thor. I don't know too much about that. From what I know, the Venusians were like, some people think Venus is Luciferians.
Well, I mean, I think in anything you can find that principle, right? You can never disassociate everything completely. It's like you can't get a North Pole without a South Pole. You can change the aspect of it, but they're one and the same. So there really is no North and South Pole. There's one behaving in, opposition and in synergy, and it's all in the same thing. Like, how do you change that, right? How do you make something that's an object of diametric opposition and switch it into, common focus, right? So that's simple, that's complicated at the same time. But yeah, I mean, where did we ever get the idea as a being, as a human being, that we're isolated, separate, or different in the basic principle from every other dang thing in the universe, right? Like, it's all like you have a vortex within you. You look deep into the center of the galaxy, and there's a vortex there, and it's a black hole, but you can't see it because it's blocked by stuff in the way. But then there's this, like, go back to Paul Laviolette, there's a story, about how to arrange the signs properly and how the astrology is actually a key code to understand creation. And they did it linearly. And he's like, no, you can't do it linearly. There's this thing going on here. There's a key code, and somebody wanted us to figure it out. And he uses NASA as like an anti-cryptic where, hey, we sent Apollo 10 out with the key code on it to discover intelligent other races, right? And we put all this crazy knowledge in this key code of the hydrogen, radiation bandwidth, of the pulsars and the rate at which they communicate, and our location on Earth based on pulsar communication. This is some really advanced shit that if somebody got this plate and they were intelligent, they could figure it out, right? And then you look at the Zodiac and Egypt and all this shit in history, and it's like somebody left us messages that if we're smart enough to realize, they're communicating that we were way more intelligent back then. It's like Idiocracy in the time capsule. Like, you open it up and it's like, hey, you're dumb as shit right now, but you don't think you are, right? And that's where we're at.
I just watched Idiocracy like 2 weeks ago. It's so classic, dude.
It's the best.
He's just like, he's literally, dude, like, it's just, oh my god, I can't even, dude.
Idiocracy and WALL-E are like my two favorite movies.
The whole movie.
Every time I watch WALL-E, I'm like, yep, this is what's going on, man.
Yeah, WALL-E's like the soft version of Idiocracy. It's
exactly.
the kid version.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Electrolytes, it's what the plants need.
I mean, thinking about, hey, look at this. So I'm going to say hello to two people, Sweet Morbid Bear and Joe Strelski. Yo, from UFO Garage. What's up, bro? Hey, guys. So we're about 14 minutes away from break. Let's go ahead and kick it into what we're going to discuss over the next hour or two. We have been having a lot of UFO talk. This mothership that is being revealed by the Pentagon, right? I'm thinking that it may have to do with what's going on at CERN. Now, this has been in my own meditations for the last 10 years, something I'm going to reveal. Like, I understand consciousness and reality in a very close connection, and there being a reflection with the other side, as we have been mentioning, entities. Now, we've been hearing for a long time, these UFOs, aliens, entities, they can't really talk to humanity because we aren't ready. Now, hypothetically, the only thing that would be preventing us from being ready as a whole is maybe some of the knowledge and technology. Now, what we have been seeing over the last 10 years is a huge boost to the technology and the knowledge, opening it up like floodgates, right? Now, CERN is also doing some things with technology. They're trying to go ahead and open up portals, dimensions, right? Now, I would understand that the higher our knowledge gets and the more technology we have and the higher it goes up, mixed with them opening up portals at the same time, it's just going to be bringing up more and more and severe stuff. Like, because whatever's on the other side is trying to match us. If they see we're ants, they'll be like, man, we're not going to send anything through. But now, if these things, these entities on the other side see that we have like
anteaters.
Yeah, but now, exactly. So if they see now in 2023, we as ants are getting some amazing technology and literally leveling up, we're about to hit tier 1. We're about to, hypothetically, if all of this space shit is true, we're about to hit that. That's what they say. We're as Hillary Clinton was hinting to. I didn't even like Hillary, but she did hint on something. She was like, we're breaking through the glass sphere, the glass dome, the firmament, right? Back in the 2014 speech, 2015. And that is also in reference to what, CERN and NASA and all these big wigs elites are trying to do. Like, they say they want to go ahead and break through Van Allen belt or the firmament or whatever's up there.
Right? The fucking whole Van Allen belt is fucking stupid because the radiation level there are completely blockable. Like you like a Bose, you don't think they know how to create like Bose systems for light? Like the technology to like drive through the Van Allen belt is like been there for like 100 years. Like, and so like I take like huge. Here's my opinion. You talk about Werner von Braun and the whole like that whole train going all the way back to Eastern Veda and the Vril Society, right? When you get into all this shit, they're talking about what you and I are talking about 70, 80 years ago, 90 years ago, right? Before that. So they're studying this like 20, 30 years before World War II. What we're just talking about restudying, right? So it's like we're in this time loop where we keep like sitting on the doorstep of could it be that simple? Could it be that easy? We don't even need a machine. We can use the human body to time travel and relocate and bilocate, so to speak. Like, yeah, like that's a fact. Like, does everybody do it? Can everybody be Michael Jordan? Can everybody race a car going? No, but like it's possible if you want it, if you want to do the work, if you want to prepare for that, right? And then you look at like, astronauts and G forces and burning your shit up. Like have you heard the story about the private guy who put a rocket into space and he was like, hey, maybe if you don't come down so fast, it won't burn up. So you could build like a cheap structure. And if you just re-enter really slow, it won't burn up. And it's safe for everybody. And they said the CIA was all over that because he was going to make a mockery of the whole damn system that was costing trillions of dollars. Just like the nuclear warheads, like I grew up with bomb, nuclear alarm, go put your head down in the hallway like a tornado. And it's like, I'm like, what the fuck? Hiroshima and Nagasaki already happened. Like, putting our heads down in a hallway of school is fucking worthless. We should be kissing the girl next to us if there's actual nukes in the air that are going to land. right? And then there was enough nukes to destroy the planet like 400 times over. And it's like, well, that's dumb. Who would invest in that? You maybe like 12 or 20 or 50 is probably good. We don't need to. And then they're like, now you all got to pay your wages to nuke all the nukes we built during the Cold War. Now we're going to pay. And I'm like, man, they never had them to begin with. They sold a bunch of fear. They got money to build them, and they got money to get rid of something that wasn't even there. Jesus, like you want to talk about black magic and people like here, I'm a slave, take my shit so I can protect my family and go off to work every day. And I'm not saying that's all bad, and I'm not saying that's all good. I'm just saying it is what it is. Like anybody who'd be like, yeah, I'm okay with paying like a quarter of my income to defense for missiles that destroy the world. Like, I don't know, when you add them all up globally, it's like what we could destroy the planet like 1,000 times over. Like who the hell wants to pay for that? Like what the fuck?
Well, they've already destroyed enough of the planet.
Right.
I mean,
right.
What's the point?
Yeah. Why are we even having this? Why does that even exist in the halls of our history? And I bring it up because people growing up today don't hear about it anymore. But I'm kind of like, well, let me tell you what happened when I was growing up. They sold this bit that they had the power to destroy the planet 1,000 times over globally, collectively. But we're not all on the same page, so we can just destroy each other through destroying. I don't get it. Like who pushes? And there was movies about AI. Remember, there's movies that AI decided to destroy the planet. And like there's people now today who are like, AI is going to decide to wipe this thing out, so we're doomed. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. I think that's the wrong focus again. I think you can't focus on that. Is it possible? Well, fuck yeah, anything's possible. So why can't anything be possible in the good direction? Like, why can't we go explore and meet new friends in the universe? Like, yeah, there's going to be some fights. There's going to be, like, we're not going to go to pure peaceful, and that's probably not a reality 100% of the time. But the vast majority of the time, it's like, how often does lightning strike in the course of a month? I think it's cool when it does, but it's destructive, right? I'm like, I love storms. I love when lightning happens. But the truth is, 29 out of 30 days a month, it's peaceful. You know what I mean? There's not like, I'm not going, oh my God, Mother Nature's going to destroy us. And when it does seem like that, I'm like, I'm just going to go stand in it and watch it. I know it has the power to destroy, but it generally doesn't. And you can stand in awe in the power, right? Like, wow, thunder, lightning. It's rare though, but it's beautiful when it happens. So like the evil, the dangerous, the destructive is beautiful. And when it's your time, it's your time. And when it's time for the tree to get struck and burnt or this thing or that thing, it's the time. Like, it's fate at that point to me. Like, don't overthink it. Just stand in its awe. Like, we're all going to die, right? We're all going to leave this machine. But our soul, who we are, doesn't die. I always say, like, when's the last time you remember being dead? Like, nobody can really recall being dead because whatever you can recall is consciousness. You recall omission, but there's no time in that. It just jumps from A to Z. You wake up or you start dreaming and you recall it, right? So, your soul, my soul, and everybody's souls, and the soul of a tree and a dog and a cat, like those are undying evolutions that can't be created and can't be destroyed. So logically, we're out of shit at that point. Like, what do you mean it can't be created and it can't be destroyed? Well, I don't know what it means other than you don't have much to worry about. Like, quit focusing on dying and focus on developing your soul and living, right? And it's because of the black magic that I say all that. The black magic is designed to dissolve a soul on the bottom line. The people who are good at creating black magic already know that your body is going to die and your soul is going to live on. So the only thing, their only challenge is how do you dissolve the soul? And if your soul hasn't been dissolved yet, which is likely the case, you're not really going to understand why they would be doing what they're doing. And they're simply doing it because they're exploring in a direction that's different typically from the average, where you and I are exploring joy and light and discovery of new things and creativity, right? That's the whole desire, the real desire to go into space or to go into the bigger microscope, like the Rife microscope, right? That's like going into space, new territory. We're learning new shit. Here we are, we're having fun. We love each other. Yeah, we might get in a fight every now and then, but in the end, like that's minor. That's a lightning strike, right? That's you and your brother wrestling because you can without hurting each other, you know?
Yeah, that's us constantly trying to evolve. And, I like to think that our evolution is happening a lot. I mean, we as a species are constantly adapting, and we are morphing to our environment. Literally, our DNA is probably changing over time in order
What?
to,
Yeah, water. That's the
in order
whole
to,
it's the
yeah,
whole roll of water, right?
you
Like
know,
even if we didn't have a brain, the water would be doing that anyways. So our whole being is adapting, evolving, writing new epigenetic because that's what water does. It's kind of like my whole motivation for life is once I realize like in a different way and a new way where I didn't struggle so hard to know what my focus was, know what my intention was, and know where I was headed was, you know, what I call authentic intelligence. And I found that in water. To me, that was the porthole to the divine male and the divine female that I was missing my whole life. That was very simple that any other human being could have taught me if they had the knowledge. So that made me go, holy shit. Like, I didn't intend to discover this. I was given this gift. And I realized this gift of what water really is, how it plays a role in the whole universe, how it brings life forward into biology. It's basically a porthole of nothing to something biologically. And to me, that simplified everything. This is how nothing becomes something, and somehow that exists in water. And it has logic and computer like skill, and it has creative skill. So it's the male, female in one. It's like a biological magnet. It resonates with certain things like way better than other things, and at the same time it resonates with all things. So that's it, like the desire, right? It's desire. You desire to evolve and learn, and this is inherent in tapping water in a way. So here we are, like, and everything is evolving at a higher rate right now. That, and we're struggling with it. Like, I'm struggling with it. Like, holy shit. Like, this is a really rapid evolution.
but we do have helpers. I was going to mention earlier with
Always.
Enoch
Yeah.
and the Book of Enoch. It seems that we have access to, as you said, transport to other times, other worlds. I firmly understand that the pyramids were used in their essence to traverse through the world. They would be able to, like, I don't even know how,
Gen-
like,
a lot of uses, right? Generate energy, travel. Like, that's all these things. Like, water, in a way, is kind of like a premise to that. Like, the water in your brain and your pineal glands starts spinning in a certain way when you're dreaming and traveling. And this is known through study of remote viewing and encephalographs, right? You can see the brain change, and then the person's like, hey, I went somewhere else and I saw this shit and it seemed really real. And then people studying them are like, yeah, that's because it was real. Holy shit. Like, and it's like, now you got to ask yourself, it's like, why did the CIA dump the remote viewing program in its study? Is because they realized they were making their own outcome with their own intentions, right? So they realized they're not a real spiritual group from the conventional sense. They're not like doing yoga and meditating and all the shit. They're studying the shit out of everything. And they go, oh crap, we're inflicting our own outcome. We're afraid of X and X happens. We're not afraid of A and we do A and A happens. We try out N for shits and giggles and don't let anybody know, and it's the same result. right? So wherever you point your head and your vision and creation generally happens, and you think it's not. It's like the trick of the universe. Like, oh, this isn't happening. This isn't happening. This is happening. Then you're like, fuck it. You quit. You let go. And 2 days later, something happens right in front of you. And you're like, holy shit, it just happened. It just, everything I was focused on in the last year that I just quit like a month ago just happened right in front of me. And now you're back in the game, right? And now you're like, I don't know how that happened. I don't know why that happened. I didn't know when it was going to happen, but it freaking happened. And now my reality has shifted. You know, in electrical engineering, we call it regaging. You set the ground, you control the ground to a different level, but you don't control what happens over that ground. And so in the end, you can speed time up and you can slow time down. But we all know you can engineer that. But we all know if you go paint or you go play guitar or you go play, like if you get creative, time flies by. There's no time. You're just in it. You're in joy. You're in the moment, right? And then if we try and force it to happen, it's like dog shit slow. Like it takes forever. Like education. We're going to get up every day and learn from 7 until 3 p.m. Like, oh my God, how long do I have to sit in this chair? But then a good teacher comes in and motivates you and shows you something you're interested in. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this class is over in 60 minutes. I want to stay here all day long rather than go off to the next class where I'm going to like go to sleep and it's taking forever, right? It's all relative. It's like it's like Einstein was the big like bankster joke on the whole world, the theory of relativity. It's not theory. It's a reality that it's all about relationship. It's not a theory, right? And so the theory of relativity means the theory of relationship, which means that's the only reality that exists. Is a relationship. Like you always have to have an observer, the observed, and the space in between. And those two alternate, right? Like you get the girlfriend, you watch your girlfriend, you watch her behavior. You admire her behavior sometimes you don't. She watches your behavior, but there's a space in between you. And both of you are observing and communicating what you're observing. And you got to be careful how you communicate that. Right.
And with that, yes, with that, we are at the top of the hour, my friend. We are going to take a break for all my viewers and listeners. Thank you for watching along. Like, subscribe, and share. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your dog, tell the birds down the road to tell the other bird, to tell their bird owners to watch this show because the bird is the word. All right, we'll be back. Hey, give me like 5 some minutes. All right.
All right, bro. See you back here.
Gonna go far, that's what we on the run for, go hard. Sipping gin while we sitting, spitting those bars. Getting rich, got a vision, get the show cards. Lot of money laying around cause we go hard, always go hard. Spitting fire, see the sonar, hope they resonate with the vibe. Feel like Mozart, really I'm alive in my soul, feel like Mozart. That's what hoes are, too explosive so I show art. Yeah, I make art, sad to see people with no heart. I work to replace all of the negative, I go far with it. I'ma show all of these bitches, no complaining if you with it. Don't you dream me, see the vision, need my energy, the mission. Really take all my precision, every single day I picture where I'll be the day we get it. Feed the brothers, feed the fam, I don't really give a damn. I don't wanna get famous, I wanna lend a hand. Give the cash and rubber bands to the people always standing on my side, always down to rise, say I planned it. I'm the guy, like the supersized on the planet. In my mind, I don't gotta try, I already have it. I'll be doing damage, I was born a savage. In my mind, I already died, living lavish. Heaven is a state of mind, be glad if you have it. Living in a simulation, be patient to grab it. Universe will bring it to you if you ain't an average. If you live an average, then Satan's bound to manage your life. I'm just trying to tell you, if you gonna roll the dice, gamble in your life instead of living precise. I ain't perfect, but I'm gonna earn it. No, it don't concern anybody but my person. Lesson that I learned is that people are gonna burn. Anything you do, they gonna pay the price. Nothing nice come in life for the dipshits. They just wish shit, never gonna manifest it. Never catch me resting, short-term blessings. I just want my brain to work so I can write my next hit. Ignite the blessings, manifest my life, never question a moment in my life. I be knowing that it's meant to be, this my destiny. All the rest of my life really history. The day that I'm finally gone, they'll be missing me. Your position be the reason that I'm gone. 200 songs done, I've been on the run. I ride a wave, make a way, I'm the one. I stay the same, but I'm changing a ton. Rearranging my brain for the gains through the sun. I've been absorbing the light, I could say that I won. At least I'm conscious of what I'm doing, praying a ton. Relay all the information, staying patient with the shit. I write a hit just to get through all the shit. I ain't a bitch, so I'll make it. I ain't dealing with the prick, I'm finna take over the game. Really, I'm getting in, I'm really glad that you're here to witness it. I'm about to fix entire rap game. You could call it magic like a trick. Classic with the way I spit it. They be clapping when it hits. I be snapping on this shit. I've been rapping, feeling lit. I'm
Yo, thank you
What's up?
guys for being here. I need to make some more ads and commercials. I just realized it's getting pretty dull. I'm looking at my site on it. I only got like 6 little video clips. I'm like, man, I need like
That's
20.
good shit, man. I was digging watching it. I like watching your like intermission.
Yeah, I mean, I try to make it as enjoyable, but now I need to spice it up, get a wide variety going on. You can go and hit it with
Full-time
this
job.
and with that. Yeah. It's my second season, second year, and this is a completely new world that I'm living in. So
yeah, let me. How's that going for you? Like, how's the growth? How's the? How do you feel about? I know you just said you needed to do more, but I get that, but I mean, I like really enjoy your production. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, man, this is like, if I'm watching this, like, I enjoy just like watching the pre-show and the intermission and the end stuff. Like, I think it's like really well done. I like it.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I appreciate you asking. I feel pretty good. I mean, I'm not anywhere near professional level yet, but I don't expect myself to be. But I am enjoying it. What I do see right now, though, is that, like, literally in the last year, um, well, everything that I've been talking about with you and other podcast guests and learning on my off time has taken me to a new height. Like, I literally feel my brain expanding. Like, I don't know how to say it. Like, my IQ, I literally feel it sharpening. Where, a few years ago, I was kind of dabbling in these subjects and I was kind of loose with a little bit of things. And,
It's a lot.
I wasn't.
It's a lot to absorb in a short. So like the internet was like what? Like let's just say '05, kind of like basic, whatever you
Well,
were interested. And then in 2010, it was like, damn, you could dive down any porthole you wanted, right? Like
all
you could
right.
get into all this stuff. So like in a period of 5 years, it went from like, hey, I can follow what I'm into a little bit better than I could off the TV, and so that's what got you in the door. And then next thing you know, like you're like, oh shit, man, there's other people who like are into UFOs and like way more people than I thought. So you get these market branches that blew out, right? Whether they're real or not, or I'm not even in that mode. I'm just saying the available inputs went through the roof. And obviously, like a lot of it makes more sense than what we've been told. So the human paradigm has went from like, I'm gonna play a game and I'm gonna have a job and I'm gonna have kids and I'm gonna buy a home and I'm gonna do this human thing, right? Nobody knows what the fuck they're doing, so it's like a crazy ride. And then all of a sudden you get this big picture view. Like, I mean, you're a big picture view guy. And so here we are 18 years later after like the internet became like widely available. And you're talking about shit that for most people is like way out to lunch, right? It's a niche crowd, right? But it's a dedicated crowd because once you like think about the obvious, you're like, well, yeah, of course there's a lot more than what we know. We're not the center of the dam as a collective, but individually, we're the center of the universe. We're the center that interprets all the information, decides what to do with it, and reflects back outward. And we got 5 fingers, we got opposable thumbs, we got 5 limbs, right? We're a physical entity that's articulate, that we ain't the strongest animal on the planet. Arguably, we ain't the smartest animal on the planet, but we are the most like insightful and creative. Like that's our strength, adaptability, right? So if we lose the ability to adapt because we're running an artificial program that tells us how we need to adapt, we've lost our only thing strength wise that I can see that the human being has. Like you're not going to win a wrestling match with the fucking equally desired grizzly bear. Like that thing will destroy you, the most advanced human being in a heartbeat, right? So we don't have physical power, intelligence, computational power. Computers have greater articulate power, but they don't know how to create and blend it because we made the computer, right? We might have figured out how to build a weapon to get rid of the grizzly bear's power, physical power. And spiritually, holy shit, that's what you talk about. Like, how much prowess do we have roaming around? When we take our soul and we say, let's go navigate around other dimensions and play with these spirits or things that can turn into physical, switch back to spirit. Like human beings can do that. They just don't realize it. That's why you're like, hey, man, what the fuck happened there? Like, why'd that person like turn from this to that? It's because it's a different spirit harboring the body, right? And riding the soul. So, yeah, man, I appreciate. I was going to say, let's do, if you can pull it off, let's do 9 o'clock Pacific, midnight Eastern, just because I feel like it's the witching hour. I feel like I'm grooving better at midnight on the topics you were interested in. Can you do that?
It's 9:21 over here. I don't really catch what you're saying.
I'm saying in the future when we do our show times,
okay.
let's start at 9.
Okay. Yeah, heading on to the summer, and now
Yeah.
that the sun's gonna come out for sure, I'm definitely thinking about pushing some of these times back. So I would appreciate that, and we can go ahead and have you on again in a second week to catch you up from last month, and if you want, we'll squeeze
dude.
you in 2 times
Yeah,
this
man.
month.
You roll however you want to roll.
Yeah, I was enjoying what you were saying though before. Um, you know where we're headed as evolution and species. We've been able to adapt and use the internet for like a newer height, right? I mean, that's what I was getting to earlier, where like my IQ has been able to really like I feel my brain processing things at a faster rate, like my tongue, my dialect, and my language in my head. Everything that's processing is expanding. I mean, I don't even see news articles the same way as I did 2 years ago. 2 years ago I was just like looking at them pretty slowly. Nowadays I'm like scanning through them really fast, and it's just been within the last year I've been able to really flourish. And I'll be honest, I've done a lot of research on my own time over the last 10-15 years, just a whole bunch of stuff and a lot of conspiratorial stuff, but I wasn't really sure. In the last 12 months, I've now reassured myself on the things that I thought I knew and threw away the things that I was misled on, and really grounded myself on a whole bunch of things I didn't know. And the topics that me and you discuss, for the most part, are pretty new. I've been able to learn a lot of new fields, and I do feel like my multidimensional self getting wiser and better. I feel more connected to elements of the world. I mean, I would say I'm not even getting like um, I'm not in some like secret society, but I understand. Like I feel like myself becoming alchemical in some sense, like wanting to understand chemistry more, and get more involved in understanding astrology. So I'm learning all these ancient arts, I would say, and I've really developed in my human self into what our ancestors have, made us into who we are and who we're meant to be, and what God meant us to be. And I think I'm reviving a lot of ancient spirituality. Like literally, man, like people call me an old head, kind of, for the way I think, an old hippie type, because like I definitely don't fit in with this younger generation for sure. Like this younger generation has their head up their own ass, but me, like I'm over here like loving gardening at 29. Normally that's like a 50-year-old thing. So yeah, man, I've really been able to revive a lot of like ancient wisdom, but bring it into my youthfulness. With a Boomer Boost and Roly Cope, I always talk about. We have these 1 month, annual conversations, right, every month, and we talk about collagen and boomer barley and a couple of these nutrients, and it's like these ancient traditions that are being revived. I literally feel it. Like barley has been used for thousands of years as a superfood. Collagen, same thing. We've been using collagen as a species on Earth for thousands of years.
Well, you know what about barley? Like kind of a tie-in with water, because that's my like gateway. Is like if you get a scummy pond, like a little pond that's like exposed to sunlight, and it starts developing scum, and then it starts evaporating, and like the whole ecosystem changes, from like a clean water that you're like, hey, I'd want to get in that, to like something you're like, I'd want to avoid that. Now it starts to stink, right? The whole thing. Well, if you put barley in the pond, like within a couple of weeks, like the pond will become crystal clear.
That's wild. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's a treatment for cleaning up ponds. Like, and that barley's not the only one. There's like, I know of like a half a dozen things you could put in a pond to make it like something where you're like, man, that's mystical, and I want to go swim in it, and the water's cooler, right? Because it's clear, so it doesn't heat up like it does when it's murky and muddy. So, just a thing about the simple ways. So you talk about eating barley. Well, if it cleans a pond up,
I wonder what it does to your pineal gland.
what's it do to the fucking water in your body? It cleans your water body up.
Oh yeah, the water in your pineal gland.
Well, that has to happen like after the rest of your body gets clean. That you can't have dirty blood and have a functional pineal gland.
Well,
I mean, it's just all murky, right? Like your whole body's an antenna. To get your pineal gland to energize that whole antenna to communicate better, further, deeper, clearer, right? You got to clean your blood, which is what the purpose of water is. Like blood's like salt water, like the ocean, right? And it's constantly cleaned through evaporation and a dissension, back through its journey, right? So, I mean, that's the whole, we talk about the life cycle of water and rivers and what true spring water is versus artificials. Most people do not know the definition of real spring water. They have no idea. Like they think spring water is water that falls out of the side of a hill or seeps up out of the ground or springs up out of the ground. Like that's like groundwater. Spring water is water that levitates at 39 degrees Fahrenheit and feeds like every healthy magical mountain stream water and all the trout that live in it, right? So like real spring water by definition is levitating cold. That's Victor Schauberger's whole entire story is what is the rise of the cold and where does that come from? How does water come out of the hotter earth at 39 Fahrenheit at high altitude? Makes no sense. Makes no sense compared to what we were taught. But if every fly fisherman knows that the good fly fishing streams are 39 degrees Fahrenheit and they come from high altitude and they come from the ground. So, I mean, Victor Schauberger's not making shit up. The water's 39 degrees, stays 39 degrees almost all the way down the stream. And the moment it starts to warm up, the river starts dying. Like it's old age at that point. So it's the life cycle of water based on like what we would call an anomaly, which that's what they call the anomaly point of water is at 39 degrees. That's its densest point. From 39 to 32, it expands and makes ice, right? It's reversing its pull. So what the hell is going on there? Like what's simple? Like, yeah, we can fly into outer space, but we still don't understand how water is born and evolves on our planet. It's an interesting concept.
I would have thought that the water from the volcanic source down deep in Middle Earth, Center Earth, that flows through, right, is probably the best water. Is that correct?
Water that tends to flow across volcanic mineral in its proper life cycle. Yes, that water is very special.
Okay,
it's different.
yeah.
It's just different. It breaks the laws of science in ways we can't explain. It goes way beyond our current technology. That's like I'm exploring that inner world, right? Like I used to always be interested in like, and I still am, of like outer space and aircraft and time travel, but like all that is much more easily achievable inward through water. And like we always say, Walter Russell and all the great philosophers said that space and water are the exact same thing. They're just different densities. That's all. same thing. Planets are floating around in water. The vortexes of the whole entire galaxy and solar system are all water-based behavior. And that's why I say water isn't a chemical, water is a principle, and it's a divine element. It's a sacred element. So, that my thing is when the human race in academia, in art, in grassroots, in all of it accepts the reality and the truth, and I'll just go ahead and say that that's the reality and truth, that water is not a chemical, it's the densest form of media that the porthole that life comes out of, simply by an idea, simply by your soul, simply by something that's non-matter that says I want to concrete my idea, my creation. And water is the gateway for that. It's the key code. It's the cryptology. It's the riddle of the Sphinx. And how to, utilize that. It's kind of my whole mission. Then from there, like you talk about the pineal gland and the brain and water, it's a big water ball in your head with a, you know, kind of a protein water ball that's theoretically denser in the center of your head that creates. There was a movie where they had like a time machine space travel craft. They built this thing. I forget what it's called. But it was the exact same motion that the magnetic field of the pineal gland does. So like the movie and the machine they built, studying how to they were studying outer space and ETs, and some blonde-haired gal who was quite famous in these types of shows was the head actor, and they achieved that with a machine. But when you looked at the machine, it was a replication of how the pineal gland works. In my first ayahuasca, they straight up were like, all right, we got to get your machine cleaned up to travel, so you're going to have to go through that pain. Then once that's all cleared out, then you can rock and roll like you want to, and you can travel. You can go time space inversion. You can go anywhere you want. And like the first time I did it and experienced it, the ayahuasca guides were like, do you really think you need to build a spacecraft to travel? They're like, you are a spacecraft. You don't need anything. Right. And that's what the Native American philosophy was. Right. So, to me, it was super cool, but I still want to build the hot rod. I still want to wax my machine, at night and listen to music and do the earth thing, where I'm like, yeah. I mean, that's what my race car is. It's, you know what I mean? It's a way to go interrelate with the machine and appreciate living atoms and how you arrange them and the power and energy of the human being to build a good machine, to build a good computer, to write a good book, to grow a good plant, right? But it's all nature manifesting in different ways, right? And human beings do some super cool shit. But like you always mention, we didn't do any of that super cool shit without help from races and things and beings that were way smarter than we are. I mean, way smarter. And that means simple, right?
And getting into that, I had a question this whole time. I've been actually trying to bring this up on a whole bunch of forums and a whole bunch of conspiracy networks, and nobody wants to tackle this. I understand that right now you just said, like 5 minutes ago, about the special water of volcano water. It's incredible. It's literally almost magical. And me, I've been doing some research on my own time about volcanoes, the Ring of Fire, and them just being mysteriously hotspots all around the world for UFOs. I mean, more than anything, these volcanoes are hotspots galore for UFOs, for aliens, for entities here, there, all across the world. Literally, if we look at the Ring of Fire, we could probably also see UFO hotspots. If we put a UFO hotspot map on top of a Ring of Fire map, definitely match up. And also, now, one thing that matches up is the Flat Earth map and the Ring of Fire map. So, getting into ancient civilizations, Syrians were a civilization, and aliens, I guess, or extra-dimensional entities, helpers, and they helped humanity for a long time. We look at these other references to aquatic beings like, Atlanteans and these mermaid type things. We look at this map. If we put the UFO hotspot map on the flat Earth map, on the Ring of Fire map, combine them all together, don't you notice something funny? We got UFO hotspots all in a wall, and on the other side of that wall, out here in the Pacific Ocean, they call it, is just land. I mean, nothing. It's no land. I apologize. There's no land. I'm thinking ahead already. What I want to mention with the Pacific Ocean, if you look at Hollywood and their disclosure, what do we see? We see Pacific Rim being a war zone for aliens and UFOs. Then we look back in history with a 1940s LA UFO alien freaking whatever happened there. I don't even know. Now we look back at Hollywood again. We got King Kong referencing the war zone over there in, I don't know, the islands by the Philippines, right? But that's also based on Operation Castle Bravo in the 1950s, where they bombed an island for some reason, still here in the Pacific. We look at Hawaii. Hawaii right now has a whole bunch of stories about UFOs flying in and out of the bases, around the islands, aliens being there. Now, I'm just going to ask you, John, what do you think is really happening over here? I mean, I understand. I don't want you. I don't want you to believe just in the flat Earth, but I just want you to look at this, as statistics and think like, what is it that's happening?
I mean, I have to go really simple, and it's magnetism, where there's, so if something was parasitic, it would come draw the energy out. If there's already energy coming out and it knows it just, we're not using all the energy that's coming out, right? So they're like, hey, when a planet gives off excess energy, you can use it. And basically, I believe they're studying the epigenetic of atoms, which the human race doesn't understand transmutation and isotopes truly. So they're watching creation at the fundamental matter level and learning about creation. They're there studying, they're there drafting energy. They're doing multiple things that are the universe giving more than it is taking, right? And they're not taking so much. They're just receiving the gifts through the earth from the universe. And we have a very diverse, like we talked about, like evolution here. Probably what the grounding point of the earth is that it gets so much attention is that it's magnetic, it's radiating, it's evolving, it's changing, it's an opportunity to learn, it's the embodiment of creation. And so that's what the center of the attention fundamentally is. Of course, within these observations, both human and extra human, is there could be good or bad in that. There's some people watching that to build weapons. Other people are watching that just because they're curious. Other people are watching that because they want to build things that are lighter, stronger, better, faster. And the people trying to make that into weapons manipulate those people. And like, it's all what we see on Earth in the human, but it's just deeper looks at it, right? And if you look where all the magnetism is, like all of the land is to the one side of it. So you have manifestation of matter on one side of the red line, and on the other side of the red line, you have rarefication of matter, meaning it's doing the opposite. It's the mirror reflection, just like a magnet, north, south pole. So you see, like the north, south pole isn't really like the top of the earth and the bottom of the earth at all. It's a principle that manifests over and over again. And if I didn't know shit and I only knew about magnetism and exothermic versus endothermic and how they dance with each other to build, where manifestation and like, so everything bubbles out and then it freezes, right? People don't think of land as freezing, but that's matter that's growing outward instead of spreading out and disassociating and disappearing. It reloops itself and densifies and freezes, meaning we can see it, we can touch it, we can hold it, we can feel it. And if you like, when I look at this map, and I'm not well trained at all in what you're talking about. I'm just saying, like, I'm looking at a picture, you're giving me a dividing line. It's kind of got an opposite axis of what you're used to looking at, right? As far as like, we're used to looking at the equator, right? Instead, we're looking at a down view. And this would be the flat earth dielectric equilibrium unfolded over 3 dimensions, which we normally think of the equator as the 2-dimensional piece, but now we need to look at it as like we put a sheet over the ball, and that sheet we can take off and it'll flatten out, and then when we lay it over the ball, it'll wrap around the ball. And so this is what the Freemasons and what the mystery school of Pythagoras and all these ancient, so-called ancient teachings were what you call a quasi-crystal, where every, like, instead of learning like 1 through 9 in math, what we would learn is the dot, the line, the triangle, the square, the pentagon, the hexagon, and so on and so forth, all the way up to the nonagon, which is number 9. And then at 10, it repeats again with now a dot and space, 0 meaning space between or space inside, because we always find space inside, we always find space outside. And then 11 being 2, like that's not manifest yet. 3 is not even manifest. 4 is the first manifest, but we can see the triangle is 3-dimensional. And then when you bring the triangle to a point, you have the tetrahedron. So it takes 4 points to get to logic, where we're like, oh, this is concrete. This is 3-dimensional. So the flat earth people are making an argument that reality is holographic and 2-dimensional and quasi-crystal, which is true. If we do the simple physics, we go simpler, right? We go from 4 dimensions to 3 dimensions. 4 dimensions kind of confusing because that flip-flops around between time space. 3-dimension, we can grab, hold, touch, feel, and has depth. We can sense that. 2-dimension, we're back to non-reality, but kind of reality. But in reality, the simple reality is 2-dimensional, holographic, quasi-crystal, flat earth, right? And that unfolds right now. That unfolds so fast that we can't see it fold and unfold. And so reality comes from a 2-dimensional construct. And that's like from beginning to end, what you're showing me here and your references, that's what it tells me. Like there's a line of manifest and magnetism. There's a line of nothing. As you pointed out, nothing is growing underneath that line. Now you have the representation of the North and South Pole. Then a magnet is a physical 3-dimensional manifest of that that's resonant, right? Where we can see like, oh my God, this is how everything works. If an asteroid's falling to Earth, the Earth is also pulling to the asteroid because they're magnetic, right? They're attractive magnetic, which is really when we get into electrical engineering and get into Fractal Woman's dissertation and, Ken Wheeler's dissertation of magnetism, which is super important in like the 3rd grade level understanding of how the universe works. Way simpler than Paul Laviolette, right? Just basic 1, 2, 3 shit. Back to a dot, a line, a triangle, a square, a pentagon, and then we'll stop at 6 with the hexagon, and then we do the rest of the number set. And then we got music ringing in at 12. 12 being the first 3, which 12 represents the first real 3-dimensional manifest in number form. But cool observation, man. I'm learning That's like my John rant on like, oh, you're showing me something I've never really looked at before, and here's where I can apply common universal principles to describe what's going on and to describe how two-dimensional quasi-crystal theory is actually a model of reality, because when you pull the triangle up to common focus, it's a tetrahedron. That's the first three-dimensional shape in the Platonic solids. That's the beginning of the mystery school teaching of Pythagoras. And if you look at the requirements to get into that school, back in the day, back in that era, like there's some pretty obvious principal requirements of, if you and I wanted to get into Pythagoras' school, we had to have certain desires, requirements, passions, and skill sets. And basically, it amounted to an open mind and the willing to manifest the open mind. That's what it amounted to. It didn't amount to IQ, how smart you were, what classes it didn't amount to any of that. It was how much of an open mind do you have and how hard are you willing to explore. And I think that's the beauty of it. We talked about it earlier. That's what makes it all tick.
Yeah, I definitely can see that this mountain range that spans all across this is creating a ripple in the dimensions. You know, it's just going up and down and creating all this massive energy,
not
creating
linear,
portals
right?
Nearly.
It's not linear. Like the equator, I said, hey, I'm used to looking at the equator model where we're looking at east-west on its side. That's linear. There's a line dividing the planet between north and south, and that's the understanding. We're done, right? And it's rotating on this axis, and it's wobbling, and why is it wobbling? And, why does cold water rise? And why is the sun not really emitting any heat at all, but we think it is, right? These are questions that people would say, of course the sun's hot because when it's out, I'm like, well, that's how you perceive it from here. But if you're in space, and there's nothing there, is it really heating anything up? The answer is no. There's no heat traveling through space. So it's potential heat, cold as hell, back to heat again. And that's why the global warming's bullshit, because NASA openly published that Pluto was heating up at the same time the planet was. It's a breathing cycle, right? The breath is hot air, out, in is cold. So that's the universe is breathing, and all the planets in our solar system resonate with that breath. So our whole solar system breathes in and out according to the rhythm of the galaxy. And then we go, oh my God, it's cooling down. Oh my God, it's heating up. Imagine if you were like, we were having a conversation and you're breathing right now, you're breathing, which you might be, and you might not be. You probably are overall. And you go, oh my God, I'm putting out heat. Oh my God, I'm making cold. Oh my God, I'm putting out heat again. Like, shut up. Like, that's how the universe works. You know what I mean? That's how you work. That's how atoms work. It's a simple thing with matter to, when you get to the etherical about how energy patterns breathe in and out, right? There's rhythms of like things getting darker and going wrong. And oh my God, and it's like the universe is baiting you to buy into the fear. And then there's like a breath out where it manifests and it smooths and it warms up. And both of them are good, right? And they're always going on. It's that simple. Everything's getting colder, everything's getting hotter. It breathes at a certain rate. And here we are observing that. That's it. Like the planet's doing that, I guess, is my point. Like that's what you're showing is like the cooling side is where there's no manifest on one hand, but that's actually where heating potential hasn't developed. If it froze on the other side, you'd see landmass. So what you're looking at is an out breath where matter manifests, where you can see the continents. And then on the cold side, it's potential heat that hasn't developed yet. So it'll change in the future. That line will move around, but it ain't a linear equator. So,
Oh yeah, no. What I was definitely just referencing is that with the UFO aspect and the hotspot, that's probably a factor only because of the magnetism. Like, if there were I don't even know how many mountains there are, how many volcanoes there are. Do you know how many volcanoes in the Ring of Fire?
Oh, dude, it's insane. It's a
So
lot.
all of those, right? All of those combined in a line like that is definitely creating this high energy mass. And it's just
They're
like,
studying the evolution of matter, like whether they're warring or whether they're peaceful, right? It's always the evolution of matter. They're studying coals to diamonds in ways we don't understand, right? And then they discover it, and then some of them might trickle it out to the parties that have things in exchange, right? Hey, give us a couple million human being studies, and we'll give you a new element we discovered on your planet, right? And there's tons of it just pumping out of the earth, right? That's the funny part. Is one part of the human race is digging down, investigating, spending a ton of money to discover like gold. Like we're gonna dig and we're gonna do diamonds and gold, right? And these more advanced beings are studying new materials that can do new things, and they're like, hey, we got extra because your Earth's just like pumping out megatons, and we're sucking it up and taking it back to where we need to go. We're mining it, but we'll give you a little bit of what we know how to mine and what we know what it is, right? Just like we do. We discover things, mix them together, make new elements. They're doing it on a much deeper level where we think it's just calcium or gold or platinum or iron. And there's like 12 forms of iron, there's 12 forms of gold, there's 12 forms of platinum, there's 12 forms of uranium, right? Actually, it starts to show itself at the upper levels. That's why the isotopes, if you study isotopes, we acknowledge they exist at the upper range because it's a bigger bandwidth. Like uranium, we have 235 pixels to look at before we get to subatomics. That's atomics, 235 pixels. At hydrogen, we have one. We have 1 pixel. We don't know shit about hydrogen because there's no resolution there, but uranium teaches about hydrogen because uranium once was hydrogen. Uranium was hydrogen's a newborn baby. Uranium is an old wizard that's got a ton of stored up potential. And if we like poke the wizard too hard, the wizard will just get pissed off and fucking release all of its energy. And the best, like Mike Rowe, like I love Mike Rowe. I like his voice. I love his common sense. I love that he supported the working man. But I heard him the other day with this converted hippie who was like a left wing anti, like everything. And then the hippie guy reads a book, and that's probably an unfair stereotype. But if you listen to the interview on Mike Rowe about how nuclear power is the future, I was like so saddened. And I wanted to write like Mike Rowe and be like, hey, I'm not speaking from a lack of experience. I worked in this industry. And I can tell you right now that if you think heavy, compressed, dangerous elements that the earth separated, and we go out and pick them and gather them back to bed and smash them into density, kind of like we build a city, which is a cesspool of human waste with no natural way to process it. It's terrible. It's horrible for the water supply because we dump it all there. It's just like dumb, right? And like I really wanted to like get with Mike Rowe and be like, dude, let me show you how like you're buying into some hippie left right paradigm where you're tying together the left and right over this guy who didn't know shit from Shinola to begin with, very inexperienced in the real world, and then discovers the real story behind nuclear power like I did when I was like 15, 16, started studying. And I was like, oh my God, this is clean because I have a chemical view, because I think it's about atoms. And I'm on that level, right? The atomic level. And I go, oh, this is the future. And I'm interested in being part of the future and the solution because I know this other stuff ain't going to work in the long run. And my dad was the huge motivation there, but he didn't really want it to go that far. And I went into the nuclear power bit, and immediately I discovered things in that are not good for biology. So if you litter this planet with a bunch of dying, concentrated, powerful elements, it's a big mistake. And I can give practical examples as to why. I don't need to right now, but I'm just saying, like,
Well, we have about 10 minutes before the break. Yeah, let's go ahead and. What were they doing with all this that you found out
well,
that you didn't like?
basically it's simple. Atoms are born young, hit a middle point, just like you. So if you want to learn about the universe, just study yourself. Whatever your perception is. Okay, let's just say I'm alive from 0 to 100, right? And there's like negative 9 months or negative 3/4 of a year of the first idea that I exist, that you exist, that any human being exists. Now it varies, right? It's 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. It's not like it's a perfect 9 months, but generally it's accepted that 9 months of incubation, then we're born, and then our yearly count is a 12-month cycle. So there's an argument between gestation time and human year. Well, the indigenous tribes, especially the Mayans, said that a human year was actually 9 months. So every month you gain 3, and every 4 years you gain a year on where you're at, right? So like every 9 years. So if you were 27 right now, right, you would gain a year. Is that right? 9 months. No, it'd be 36 would be the first year gain, I think. And so whatever, the point is you're actually by human years or cycles older. And so we're really confused as a race, as a being, because we're told we repeat every 12 months, but actually in the soul, we repeat every 9 months. And in the manifest, we more or less repeat every. So there's two different cycles: manifest and then soul, etherical and material, right? And that's the North and the South Pole, right? That's everything. That's the basic dipole. And then we bring it into logic, and we need 4. So the logic of taking an old, about to die, powerful element that nature like spreads out. So like, let's just use the example of a human being. Let's just use like a yogi. They're 80, 90 years old. They live a healthy life. They're probably going to live till they're 100 and 110. They're a great role model because they're like doing shit at 80 that you can't do at 30. And then they start teaching you, right? But then somebody says, you know what, Joseph, like, do you dig this like wisdom and this like being that's like old and wise and powerful? And you're like, yeah, man, this dude, like, he trains me on like fighting and he can kick my ass, and he's 80 and I'm 30. Like, this is amazing. Like, this guy eats very little and he eats like very clean and like has a simple philosophy about life. And he's not happy, he's not sad. He's just kind of in the groove all the time, and you know it, but he doesn't like brag about it. He's not like, yeah, I fucking rock and roll, man. I'm in the groove. You should be like me. No, he's like, hey, man, I'm old. I need to pass on my knowledge. I'm getting ready to leave and go somewhere else. And like, my humor is very quaint and very like, it's everything's different, right? But it's there. Like, once you like get the foundation, like, he's got good jokes that like, so there's all this like super evolution in the journey. And then somebody comes along and goes, hey, Joseph, that worked for you. I'm going to get you 1,000 of these guys and put them all around you, and you stand in the center and you learn from all 1,000 of them at once. And you're like, I haven't even fucking learned from one of them yet fully. Right. And that's like the idea of mankind and uranium. You're taking the wise old yogi that nature didn't spread out because it was like, yeah, I'm going to randomly fucking isolate this thing. No, it was like this one thing can teach a lot of things on how to evolve. And so when you look in nature, the wizards and the yogis are spread way apart because they're powerful enough to teach and grow up all the other atoms. And then some form of mankind, I actually think, ET-ish, like, rapidly discovered radiation and these atoms, and within 10 years the human being like had it fully developed and was too stupid to realize, dude, you don't put 1,000 wizards trying to teach one person at once. Like, it's stupid. The one person can't learn in its lifetime barely what the one uranium atom could teach, and we jam them all together very densely. And we do a destructive bomb with it, or we calm it down enough to like not do a bomb, but to give power off. But you don't think that energy is bellowing out. The same thing. All right, let's use your line, your line of fire here, and the polarization of manifest versus non. Like that's another case of just because concentrated uranium can't be measured in all the ways, like what makes you think that that's not putting out bad energy? Energy that destroys life that you can't measure, right? So if you have one or two of them here and there, and you're already destroying the planet by chemical intoxication, you would never notice. But let's just say we didn't chemically poison our planet and we started to deposit nuclear power plants of the concentration of the wizards all over the planet, the same end result would happen. And you would end up with demanifestation or, the top of that red line. Like nothing is going to grow in that anymore. And yet nobody can measure it and they fight over why. But the reality is, like, what do you mean why? There's nothing growing over there. And that happened after we did this, right? That, like, do you need to know how it all works? But in my opinion, the ETs are studying like the in-betweens along the line of fire because we just see magical things happen with volcanoes for the same reason that and we see even more magical things when the volcanoes are kind of plugged up, which they're all plugged up, otherwise they would just explode. But the more plugged up they are, the finer the stream of emission, the higher the evolution of the allotrope. So it's like carbon diamond. So, like carbon diamond is a principle that exists from hydrogen all the way, long past uranium. I can't remember what all the elements are because, like, those are like quaint things we should like observe from a distance because we're not that old as a human race, and we're not that old yet as a being. Like you and I are middle life. You're approaching middle life. I'm kind of cracking over middle life. So atom wise, I would be like till it gets like stupid. The usable elements, like I'm somewhere around iron, and you're maybe somewhere around silicon in age. That's the evolution that's going on. Those are the lessons that are being taught astrologically. And the womb is like monatomic hydrogen, which is the proton that makes up the positive action of the entire atomic table. So what we're talking about is fractality, that we could study the atomic table deeply and learn about the evolution of the human being. We could study uranium deeply and learn about the evolution of the human being. We can study the cosmos. We could study our planet. We could study cells. Moreover, we can study water. And that was my end game of how do you tie all this together? Oh yeah, water's the medium that ties all this together. All right, let me take a lesson here and I'll finish my life out on that lesson. I believe it's deep enough. So I believe you get into those depths and the manifest of how we interrelate with more advanced beings is kind of your likeness. I think, like you just said, people call me like old or like, well, that's just your soul, not your physical manifest. Your physical manifest is pinned down to the natural human cycle or atomic or materials cycle. Your soul ain't pinned down to that, man. Your soul might be old, living in a younger middle-aged body. And now you're getting wise enough to go, hey, man, I want to share this stuff. Like, I believe I have something to offer here. And like, I love when you do stuff like this because, like, I don't know anything about this, but I'm like, what's the pattern? And when you can see a pattern, and most people would not be like, hey, on one side of the line, there's nothing. And on the other side, there's a lot. And that's a huge difference. One is very dense with matter and not very dense with energy. And the other one is very dense with energy, but not dense with matter. So it explains why that's the study line between those 2 points is the porthole for how things evolve and go to new dimensions. So, I mean, I would say I'm 90% correct to answer your question. That for good or for bad, why the ETs are interested in that line is because there's elements epigenetically forming on that line. And I actually have scientific evidence for that with water. So it's all right on the border of water and land, right? That whole line. Pretty much.
I live in Washington State, right close to this, and Mount St. Helens actually blew in 1980s, and it covered my land. And there's stories about entities all across these mountains. I'm looking at it. You know, we see a lot of scientific and technological updates and bringings and advancements and bases. Silicon Valley, we got Microsoft on this side. We got Boeing. Man, literally China over there, and Japan that is on the other side with some of this too. I
mean, I always reference Ben Rich when he retired from Lockheed Martin and
Russia.
Ben Rich from Lockheed Martin said, everything you're wondering about, if it's a reality, like, can we space travel? Are there ETs? He was like, it's been done. That's reality. See you later. I mean, when he retires retirement speech, like he said, hey, I want to let you all know that what you're all wondering about is long been done.
And with that, let us get to a break. Hey guys, thank you for being here. Chad Smith Podcast. Yeah, what up, dude? 509, he says, hey, we will be back in 5 minutes, and sit right back, roll a joint, and get it popping.
Not new, what I do. I've been at it for a minute, pursuing, doing the damage. New, I would do everything that I said I would do. I gotta have it, so goddamn it, I'ma be everything I plan to be. Glad to see money coming my way, believe I'll achieve anything I put my mind to, or at least I try to. I'm avoiding my doom, manifesting my room. Meditate to ease the flow, third eye open, see the golden energy. It can enter me, get me to feeling full, forget my enemies. Dead to me, yeah, I proceed to go to a new dimension. Gotta mention it's inside of soul. Go inside, fuck the outside, never tell lies, show pride for belief. Gotta keep the range wide, so instead I just write another hit. Getting fried, rolling up, smoke another blunt for the good times, bad times makes for the good rhymes. So it never matters, I just learned, no I can't hide. Thank God for every second was birthed with the mind of an ancient soul who's just waiting for the next sign. I'm always watching, vision like a hawk, have 'em flocking. When I drop it, I'm talking, have 'em knocking. The knowledge that I'm dropping, I'm coming out the noggin, I'm logged in. That's the intuition, nothing wrong with doing what you feel is right, everybody got this. Usually feel it in the night when I'm dropping knowledge. I never even needed any college, abolish people telling people what they want. I do not wish control over anybody, do it for the profit. That's the reason that they push it, do it from the cockpit. Cause they got the money, want the money on the mob shit. On the mob shit, but I know they ain't gon' make it, shit is poppin'. At the end of time, new age topics. Revolutionary crusade cross, here we go to a new space. Yeah, we enter in a new place. Louis V on my shoelace, rolling with the blue face. Yeah, I'm wondering what you chase. Just another dude caught up in the rat race. Moving my pace, lot of people looking at me sideways. I chase future preparations, gotta go through my phase till I'm ready to rearrange it. happen on a daily basis, tripping oasis. Met so many people that I can see through their faces and touch, so I'm reading minds, feel like I'm evasive, persuasive, cause I feel the vibe, manipulation, I'm patient. Yeah, I feel the vibe, then work to change it. Manifestation, blessings is what I'm chasing. Quantum physics, I'm about to take the time and rearrange it. I play with reality, can't feel like I'm basic. Most people shut it down, don't wanna embrace it. Replacing knowledge.
All right, guys, we are back. Hey, everybody. Go check out my new sponsors over at Heart and Soil Project for all of your cannabis seed needs. Spring is right around the corner, and you do not want to be left with some bummy seeds that you got from your homie down the street. No, none of that. Go get some grade A genetics. They got new strains all the time, and some soil fertilizer, nutrient supplements, cool stuff that's happening over there. Brand new and literally on point with everything they got going on. 509 Divine Pines for 20% off your order. Yeah, it is good to have a geneticist with those type of things. Honestly, you don't want to be smoking no Mersh seeds. Yup. Hey, guys. Hey, how's it going, John?
Good.
Yeah. Let's get back to it. We're looking at that map with, this right here. And I just also want to point out, some of these UFOs have water technologies. Is that right?
Well, I mean, there's all sorts of reports, like even in racing, like some of the race car drivers in North Carolina that moved on lakes. When they moved there, like all the locals around the lake were like, yeah, like craft come down and suck water out of the lake, and we think they're powering up, And then the Billy Myers story with the Palladian carafe is all about like HHO or water plasma and like powered off of water, right? And Victor Schauberger had stories of developing anti-craft for the Nazis when he was commandeered by them. Even it went on to be called levitative water, that you charge the water up where it's like it has the ability to de-weight itself, right? And so, in other words, like there's density and there's non-density, right? That's all that really exists. The in-breath, the out-breath, like we talked about. So, basically water can store density and become heavier, or store non-density and become lighter. And that's kind of the balance of how life works. So, yeah. Yeah, water powered. I would say that's the transition, that if you want to like draw in more power, you have to have water present in order to absorb our lack of knowledge. So, and if we get too much energy coming in, the water can buffer that and store it and warn us that we're overdoing the in-draw, the in-breath of energy, and water will give us a warning with its own out-breath of how to back off and fine tune this whole situation. So, my like life change into devoting my time into the study and development and application of water for improvement of life came through observing all that. So, super easy for me when I'm trying to explain to somebody what the importance of water is as a gateway, as a porthole between the material and the etherical world, just like you show on this map. Like, where it's just water and that's more etherical, where there's continents, that's more material and less etherical. And then we see through these portholes like a volcano. It's a transition, but it's in the two-dimensional plane. It's through the paper you're showing, not like across the paper. So, yeah, man, 100%. Like, if I'm developing anti-gravity, I want water in the equation to give me a buffer so I don't like destroy myself or my shop or my greater surroundings if I'm playing around with this stuff.
I would think that these Palladians, as you say, would be geneticists. It's almost like they're friends with the Syrians if we look back, way back, right? Well, what is this with the Billy Meyer story? I've never heard this.
The sheep farmer. You've never heard that one?
No.
Oh yeah, it's well documented. And then he turned over like the engineering details to NASA. So he was a sheep farmer in like Switzerland. And I think for like 3 years, like the craft presented themselves to him. And they're like, we know how to show ourselves to you and nobody else. We know how to manifest and unmanifest in this dimension. This is how our craft works. We're going to teach you how our, and he's like a sheep farmer out in the middle of nowhere, probably like a Basque derivative sheep farmer by himself, taking care of sheep in isolation out in the mountains. And he said these things could like manifest and communicate with him in his head. In other words, they weren't talking through a loudspeaker. He would just hear their voices in his head. And he had no education. He didn't have any physics, any advanced math, no calculus. And at some point he was like, hey man, they told me like, because I have no education, because I don't know anything, that the end goal is to take the information and present it to NASA and have NASA and all its engineers look at the information. And basically he did that. He took notes after over 3 years. He took notes. He documented waveforms. They like showed him like the waveforms around the ship that you can't see. And like in reality, if you study water and anti-gravity, you'll see the same waveform formations. If you study Paul Laviolette's manifestation of the neutron or matter in the definable sense, you see the same exact waveforms. And he presented them to NASA, and they were like, well, I'm like, they were like, this guy, there's no way this guy could have he's like presenting stuff that's like pairing with our most advanced research and going beyond it. And historically, this guy has no means for justification. And so basically, they said they were Palladians, and they taught him for 3 years on how anti-gravity craft works. And basically, it was 2 different metals barely spaced apart. So a hollow hull body, like a exoskeleton with 2 walls with space in the middle that was filled with water plasma. And they said you need the water plasma in order to make the metals, because the metals are isotropic. They're allotropic. They're different than your atomic table. They're in between the elements you guys know. And once you figure out the recipe and you put water into it and ignite it, this thing becomes like programmable, multi-dimensional craft. Yeah, it has like predator camouflage, has interdimensional phase out and phase in, has selective phase in, meaning they could lock into one human being and make sure that only that human being could see the craft at the time. And they taught all that over like 3 years, and it was well documented by them. So I don't know, could be maybe it was a sheep farmer who was smoking too much weed and had an overactive imagination. But if that's true, then the overactive imagination is more correct scientifically than NASA is to date. So I don't know what to say about that other than going by fact and my own experience. The story's true.
That's pretty fascinating. Hold on. Did I change something? Okay, yeah. These guys over there in Europe, they see a lot of things. I mean, here in America too, but it's been known For a long time, Europe's popular for a lot. Switzerland, we got these elites. Who knows what they're doing? Calling in these UFOs, occultic practices all over. Was it Geneva, right by Geneva, Switzerland, right? Um, yeah, yeah, big powerhouse over there. Sheep farmer. But it's also being in touch with nature, being in touch with your senses. Imagine if he was like, just some, how do I say this? Some really, a paper pusher in office, and he sees something out there. They wouldn't really believe it. Oh my God, no, I'm psychotic. I need to go to the doctor. Give me some pills, shut the shit down. you know, right? So yeah, coming from a sheep farmer, hey, dude, like, what's to give? He doesn't have time to bullshit.
I mean, the whole point is he wasn't programmed.
That too.
I mean, he was open and didn't stand to gain anything from it. And then over time realize, oh my God, like I've been like, what a gift. You know what I mean? I thought I was just a sheep farmer and I enjoyed my life. I didn't relate with society, don't care about all that shit. And you're thinking, hey, maybe I should have got an education, got a job, got married, had kids, bought a nice house in a suburban neighborhood. And in the end, he's like, holy shit, man, I made a good decision. What a great gift. I got visited by an outer, an outer race that's extremely intelligent. And he didn't really care. He wouldn't have gave a shit if they were like, we're just showing you for your own shits and giggles. But in the end, they were like, no, you need to go present this to NASA and show them what's up. Show them that we're here. Show them where you guys can go, where you can get to. But nobody really paid too much attention to the water thing. Of course, I did. I'm kind of like, oh, it's a water powered craft. So when you ask about, maybe some of those craft are drawing up minerals and water also. Some of them are refueling. Some of them are refueling and studying. Some of them are refueling, studying, and developing biology. Others are developing weapons. Like, why wouldn't you have the whole hodgepodge? Like, look at the human race. We're maybe the thing that makes us the most advanced is that we're diverse in our desires and directions. So why do we all do things is very different, but we all study the same things to do all the things we want to do. Like your reason for going out in nature is different than mine, right? And like, a bunch of heavy machinery earth movers are going out into nature, right? But their intention and why they're doing it is very different from a backpacker who's observing or a sheep farmer, right? But we're all going out into nature and harvesting benefit from it. Some of, where we abuse it and where we don't, that's debatable, I think.
Nature can provide in multiple ways. It can balance us in our multidimensional states, attune the mind, attach us into proper frequencies. Also, the body get us back into the natural circadian rhythm and the energy of Earth, and the spirit. Revive us into our jubilant natural self. In all these different ways. I appreciate nature and everything. And where do you want to go with this? What is your
I think
leading?
Simplicity and observing nature, right? If you try and explain it, if you over articulate it, you're complicating it, and complication means separation, right? Like one turns into 1,000. Where we need to be thinking, like, how do we turn 1,000 into one? And observing nature, understanding it more deeply and simplifying it and applying it is really where the whole human race needs to go. Cosmologically, I think we just need to focus inward and what's going on here for a while. The bigger picture will condense here however it needs to. Like, I think that's when we start to like focus inward down, especially down to the principle, the etherical, the soul version of the planet, and connect with that. That's what real grounding is. Grounding isn't taking a copper wire according to electrical engineering and connecting yourself to the earth, because that it's the opposite. It flows mostly the opposite of what we think. So with all the noise being grounded out in the planet, it's likely that what we call grounding is not really grounding. It's the opposite. And at the same time, like connecting to the soul of the planet is what's really grounding. And that's what we have to do. And that communication will guide us in where to go, what to observe, what to do with ourselves, right? Rather than like, oh, I need to make at least 100 grand a year so I can build a good life. Like that's not grounding. That's secondary. Like all that's quantity, not quality. It's quantitative, not qualitative. And so it's not about any of that stuff. It's about like really grounding to the principles of the earth through like the soul connection, not through a physical wire, not through necessarily putting your feet on the ground. But I will say that's like, that is a real method of it. You know, bare feet on the ground is it's a gift, you know, that we have that ground and foundation to stand on and be who we are, and that's huge. But like the biohacking side of it all, like look at it, biohacking. It's kind of like shortcut, don't want to do the work, and like being wise and being intelligent and knowledgeable has a lot of gain in it, but in the end, you still got to stick your hands in the earth and be part of it. And I think that's the part we're like really heading away from and that we really need to focus on. And that can provide a lot of solutions for the planet and its current direction, which we didn't cause, but we're making it worse. And so, like, it's just like when you like, if, you know, me and you are working together and you start going down, like, I got to pick it up. And so, like, when we're not doing well, we should be out of phase. And when we're doing well, we're in phase. When we're both doing well, we go exponential. When I go bad or you go bad, the other one goes up and holds the line until we level out again, and then we can go exponential again. So there really is no bad. There's just a balancing of the bad and then double gooding it. And I think if people had that mentality, there's no negative. Everything starts with nothing and moves into something. And nothing always becomes something the deeper we understand it. So it's like philosophically super simple. Like there is no such thing as nothing. There's the appearance of nothing that always brings something. There's no such thing as bad. There's just a relative not performing or observing or being to the level you normally be. And then there's inspiration of two people working together that raises the bar. And it's not to be better, it's to have more fun, to have more joy, to explore, to discover new things, to share good things, right? There's no there's just nothing, and on top of that, there's a growth and a good. There's really no negative or bad luck or bad days. That's all part of the programming.
Yeah, once you break out of the matrix like we have done, and most of my viewers are getting into doing, as they tell me, we are able to not be stressed and really phase into a higher existence. I mean, literally vibrate yourself into a newer state. I mean, literally there would be days and hours in my teens where I'll be stuck in a depression, the rut, out of tune. I mean, I
All of,
couldn't even shake it. Like,
all of
let's just
us,
say,
right? I mean, that's life. That's the human journey. That's, you know, we're facing a lot, right? Like right now, like we're not shy on what we're considering here. And I'm not going to say I'm better than anybody or I'm more involved. I'm just going to say if you explore into these things, they become a greater reality for you. And then if you develop that, you can share it with other people where like they don't have to like trip across it, go on this deep difficult journey, right? It's all good. It's just whether you're investing in like hard learning, medium learning, easy learning, or easy manifest, medium manifest, and high manifest. And high manifest, you can't talk. Like most of our high manifests on the planet is people who talk like gurus. Like high manifest is you have to set a goal and physically achieve it with things that are solid, whether it's getting more viewers, that's a manifest, right? Getting the actual physical attention of a human being and more of that and a higher quality of that, or building like a machine, or building a robot, whatever you want to call it, right? Has to be high quality and it has to happen. There's different versions of it. But nonetheless, like if you don't manifest it and you're just always talking about it, that's kind of like the demon in my that's the biggest demon because they're always selling good, but nothing ever happens. And like I said, there's no bad. The worst you could get is nothing ever happens. So they're like selling nothing. They're on the bottom of the bottom of the bottom feeders as far as souls go, because it's just a distraction. And that doesn't mean you or I couldn't read it and go do something with it. But a lot of what I've seen in the human race, especially in what we call academic in a critical way versus academic in a teaching way, when like it's like I used to wonder when I used to give a tutorial or speech on why we should do something engineering wise, and a wiser, older, maybe even, I shouldn't say less program, less formally educated says, yeah, but that's all academic. And I would go, what does that mean? And basically, it took me like half of my life to figure it out. I'm like, oh, all academic. That means like that's not what's happening in reality. That's theory. It's a nice way of saying like you really don't know what the fuck you're talking about. In theory, it sounds right, but if we go look at what happens in the real world, that's not what happens. And so they're like, I can't explain it, but it's academic because that's like what you were taught. What really happens, and I'll go show you, is this. And then you're like, wow, I never saw that before. Like it's like hiking in the woods and discovering a waterfall. You're like, whoa, I didn't know this was here. But now that we have like satellites and AI, the human race is programmed to think that they've discovered everything. And really, we're resetting right to that zero potential. Simple, basic. What's 1, 2, 3 mean? Like everybody knows what 1, 2, 3 is. It's some six, and one is and two is one more than that. It's all very simple, right? But what is the principal meaning of 1, 2, 3? Well, fuck. You can't have one because if there's consciousness, one observes through space another to have consciousness, to get the reflection. Two is, a space with two parts, which explains reality in a quasi crystal form. And three, like I said before, it goes back to that. Like till we understand what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is, and why 10's a repeat in summation and numerology and in itself summation. Like we're really not getting it. So it's like education system wise, you can't just teach 2 + 2 = 4 and vice versa. You have to teach the meaning of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What do they mean? What are those being? Just like a human being, like who are you? What do you mean? Like I know you're a good-looking 30-year-old with a bunch of basketball shit on during March Madness who's running a podcast, but what's your meaning? What are you accomplishing? And like that's my interest in this is and you is like this is the midnight hour. 20, 30 people is huge listening to what we're talking about. And that grows, right? At this level where it's like seed. Like at the Joe Rogan level of 2 million listeners, like this conversation couldn't happen in 3 parts at 1:38 in the morning in, Eastern United States. And, what's it, 10:30 there?
Not for his agenda, for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry if you see me playing with my teeth a lot. I just got these Invisalign braces today.
How do you like them?
Dude, it feels like I don't even know. It feels so stiff in my mouth. Like I can definitely tell
A
it's
little
pushing
weird.
my teeth. Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm all here like just
How
like
much?
playing with them, right?
How much did that cost?
So I actually used the Byte program. It's a website. It costs about like 2,000, but I'm doing payments for like 80 a month. So yeah, doing it pretty cool. Hey guys, that's reminded me. Donate Benello. Honestly, I need all the help I can get paying this braces off. So I have Cash App and there's a Buy Me a Coffee and PayPal. Go ahead and click the links below. Donate. Thank you.
Hey, what's up with the new motif? You used to have kind of this blue room. It was kind of like a groovy, calm, cool ET blue, and now you got like, is this a different room? Or you just
Nah,
got different lighting?
but I do got a grow tent right there.
What do you got?
I got a grow tent.
Oh, okay, so that's what's behind you.
Yeah.
So you got
If I open it up.
So you got some alien plants growing
Oh,
back
it's already
there.
in. Yeah, it's already shut off time.
Yeah. Don't spike them. Don't hermy it out.
Oh no! Hopefully they'll be all right. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they take a little bit of it.
Yeah, they'll be great. Shout out to Heart and Soil Seeds. Literally, man, I enjoy what that dude got going on. I think right now it's Italian Stallion and Sideshow Skunk. That's what I got going on. So Italian Stallion and Sideshow Skunk. Let me go ahead and get the genetics.
You got some Bruce Lee going on there.
Sideshow Skunk is an Afghan vanilla mac crossed with freaking sweet. So it's going to be amazing. It's going to be really resinous. The Afghan vanilla mac, it's going to be resinous and flavorful with the Sideshow. You know what, man? This is going to be awesome. Then these are the first time trying them out. I'll be honest. Like, I'm excited. I tried Peruvian strains from him. Oh, actually, Mozambique strains from him last year. They were great. They were sativas. So Mozambique is in Africa, right? And he crossed them with a whole bunch of different ones. I had a Calypso Cam crossed with Mozambique, and that was awesome. And then I had a Kosher Kush crossed with Mozambique, and that was awesome. Yeah, like very great, very great. I'll be honest. Like I'm looking at the other times I've grew over the last few years, and these seeds and the genetics in them are definitely more powerful than the other stuff that I've grown. I mean, I'm looking at the plants like they were small the other years.
Are you feeding them structured water?
I didn't yet, but yeah, these plants, yeah, I've been feeding them. And the last few plants I did not. The last few years I didn't even put any, like, no fertilizers, no nutrients, nothing, just straight water and sun. But now I got food nutrients, so it's all good this year. And this is my first time growing indoor too. This is amazing. Yeah.
Different.
It's great. It's definitely going to produce some more sticky, resinous indoor type, feel. Yeah, what I really like. Yeah, lime green, Yeah. So, now, you know what? I'm looking at this this map, and I'm also seeing there is some new updates with Zealandia, right? Have you heard about Zealandia with the lost eighth continent, which is under New Zealand? There's let me go ahead and show this. It's pretty interesting. they say it's pretty large. Right here. So, yeah, I would imagine that there's a lot of bases under here. When we look at these things, speaking about UFOs and such, these are the perfect places. Stargate Atlantis kind of went into it a little bit. Did you watch that show?
Yeah, good show. The original.
Yeah, what do you think about the Stargates?
I liked it. You know what I mean? It was like exposure to like concepts. Obviously, like
The
everything.
military was involved in it.
Sure. That's what's cool about the military is they're like super heavy into exploration. Maybe for the wrong reasons, but in the end, it's the journey that matters.
Well, I actually think that within the military, there's all these different sides. I know that this is a constant topic, but with the Titanic and the families that went down, specifically like the Astors and some of the others, these guys were heavily opposed for the J.P. Morgan. They were heavily opposed the banks and the crew elites, the Rothschilds and all that. And yeah, like I would imagine that they are now still in the military. They're still out there exploring, still making advancements. So we can't just think that everybody in the elites, like the billionaires, are all bad. Even the military itself.
What group of people did you ever work with on a complicated project that didn't have differences to the point where they split like a cell, right? Like mitosis. Like this, okay, we are all together as one, and all of a sudden it divided into two. And yeah, we started off with the same idea, but as we learned, it split. So yeah, absolutely. Within every agency, within every institution, there's a dipole, and some people become vehemently opposed to their group and they make it known, and other people just kind of say, I don't really know, and watch this split, and they learn from both sides, and the third happens, right? The infamous third, the odd beat. That's where creation occurs, right? 2 is repetition, 3 is creation. 1 is an idea. So if you said explain what 1, 2, and 3 mean, I would say idea, opposition, and creation. So 2 ideas that oppose each other that create. Right? 1, 2, 3. Maybe planet Earth is Monkey Island.
I kind of think that we are like surrounded by other worlds, other land masses, and out there in the other land masses, probably giants and bigger people.
I mean, there's a whole lot of bones coming up of larger human beings in the past. I mean, the cover up on anything that changes the paradigm is massive, right? Just like when a family fucks up, like let's just say one of these higher end families you're talking about as far as finance goes, or ability or potential to inflict change due to finance, regardless of their skill. If somebody fucks up in that family, like a great amount of resources is spent on covering it up. Just like your family did when somebody fucked up. You didn't want to put it in the newspaper, right? You wanted to be like, hey, we're better than this. How did this happen? Let's not have this happen again. And in the meantime, while we're learning about how to not fuck up so bad, let's cover it up, because it doesn't do us any good for everybody to know about it. Is that a conspiracy, or is that ego? and going, I'm embarrassed, so I'm going to cover it up. Like, conspiracy is a funny thing because even if you wanted to tell everybody, you know that that can't happen. That if you told everybody, I always told people, if you want to spread a lie, start with the truth. All you got to do is tell the truth and everybody will twist it into a lie. If you start with a lie, then chances are that truth is going to come out. Like, it's opposite of what we think, right? Just like if you start with density, you're going to end up with energy. And if you start with energy, you're going to end up with density. It's just the breathing cycle, right? If you breathe in, you're going to have to breathe out. Whether you like it or not, if you want to like follow along with the rhythm of the universe, that's what happens. Short skirts, long skirts, bell bottoms, tight bottoms, long hair, short hair, it all oscillates, right? If you looked at human clothing and you put it on fast forward, you just see shit going up and down. Like short skirt, long skirt, back to short skirt, long skirt, tall socks, short socks, big shoes, little shoes, right? Big hair, little hair, right? like like a colder, hotter, and like look what happens is somebody takes cold and sells it as bad. Everybody freaks out and does stupid shit and then makes it worse. And then they sell hot and everybody makes that bad. So like that's the magic trick is fear, like it's bad for you. Like, nah, it's a learning curve, you know, we're all on a learning curve now. Like, do we even understand 1, 2, 3? Let alone the alphabet, let alone the power of sound, let alone the power of water. Nah, not really. We don't really know that.
I do think that we can go through these channels underneath the oceans, though. And when I was looking at the underground tunnel map of America, I do see that there is a whole bunch of tunnels on this west coast, almost like more than ever. You know, I'm wondering if that's the same thing all across this coastline on the west coast. Maybe even,
Coastline.
uh,
It's over. It's all under the whole continent, planet wide. It's a fact.
yeah.
Yeah, there's underground bases all over the place, and there's trains that connect to like if people think that like the president travels around in a 500-mile-an-hour airplane, who or the real president, whoever that is, whatever that is, like that's all like stupid shit. Like there's underground submarine bases, there's underground bases, and they're all connected together underground. And this what's going on the surface is kind of our old weight technology. That's like 1960 shit. Like literally, like we're all kept backwards in time, right? And Boeing, like the whole ability of ETs to travel and what Ben Rich said from Lockheed when he retired and what many other like they've been telling us point blank like where the reality is to how things are technologically. And we think because we have a big screen TV in our Tesla, it doesn't rumble and smell that we've achieved things. And we haven't. It's the same shit. It's the same stuff, right? So, you know, when you get down to brass tacks, like there's a whole ecosystem that's underground, just like black markets and people who want to make money. And, you know, sometimes they compromise their ethics on that desire. And so advanced technology, right? The TR-3B, the Navy released, you know, 5, 6 patents on anti-gravity crap. Boeing released a bunch. I mean, what you're talking about as far as technological ability and interrelation with more advanced beings is the fact that was coming out in the 1930s that here we are 100 years later and it's like just barely like leaking out to the point where we're doing like an underground midnight show. right? To even have this conversation. Because if we did it, you're kind of different because you're committed into what you're doing and the exposure and the enlightenment. And, I'm a little bit more concrete in the manifest of the business world. So I know none of the people on the more right wing conservative side would see this. But I mean, if I was more prominent in that direction, which I'm not anymore, I'd be like, man, if one fucking person in the industry got a hold of me doing this, like, it would be weird because they don't have to go like broadly because I'm not broadly known. All they have to do is tell one person in the business that that guy's a fucking quack job. You know what I mean? He's vaping CBD and drinking beer at midnight talking about ETs. And that would ruin my reputation to a degree in the old school paradigm. In the new school paradigm, because of guys like Joe Rogan's biggest thing is like, he can have intelligent conversation and smoke cannabis. Right. And like now it's not judged like that, hey, this inspires intelligent conversation and relaxation. And I honestly, I kind of love that platform, even if it was just me and you doing this and nobody else was ever going to see it. I would do it just to record it. And that's the opposite of me like 5 years ago. I'd be like, no, 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 dude, we'll have this conversation, but you can't record it. Can't put it out there. Like at this point in the game, I'm kind of like, fuck it. I'm old enough and I've been through enough that I'm just going to fucking say it. And what you're talking about is 100-year-old stuff that the fact that there's any controversy out and the fact that we're not excitedly teaching like third graders about it to give them inspiration in life of what the future is going to be like. And we're hiding all that. And the best we can do is have a drug company that's like, what did I hear the other day that drove me fucking nuts about the COVID? They're like, get Koblovid for COVID. It was like they made the name of the drug rhyme with COVID. So it like was like a song. And I'm like, oh my God. And like somebody actually asked me the other day, like, do you think pharmaceutical companies like what's involved in naming this shit? And I go, I don't know, a bunch of people getting shit faced, stoned, drunk, doing coke, tripping out, and like blurting out a bunch of stupid fucking words, and then they trademark it. Like, there's no rhyme or reason. It's just people making up names of poison they're going to give you, and they all know it. They all know it's going to wreck your body, and they giggle around and make fake names up and trademark it and feed it to the public in mass. And on the side note, it basically says this will fucking kill you. Like, this ain't good for you. This will fuck you up. This will relieve your one symptom and fuck you up in 9 other ways. And yet, that's a multi-billion-dollar industry. But if you talk about advanced transportation, advanced exploration, advanced knowledge, advanced health, like it's still taboo. And it's not the big players, it's the programming of your mainstream, like they think what we're talking about is nuts, but they think let's go get Pavlovid for COVID and get 4 boosters and get the shit anyways after we've talked to all our friends and family and everybody who's got the shot has got it anyways. Or you think for once anybody's like, I wonder if the shot's causing it. Like, it exploded after we all got the shots. Nope. It's tell me what I can watch on TV. Tell me what I can buy for cheaper. It's just a race to the bottom, right? And the good thing is once everybody bounces off the bottom, some people will just splinter and redo their shit later on with their soul that didn't die, that broke through the plane of reality. And other people will go, you know, we're kind of hitting bottom here. And there's only one way to go from here. And that's what's cool about it. You know, I like that. I like having open conversation. I don't think you and I are right or wrong. I don't think you and I have an understanding better than anybody else does about really anything, but we're just willing to look at it and have the discussion. And I'll give you my strong opinion based on my knowledge, my perception, which is my worldview, which is my reality, which is my universal view. But that's not yours and that's not anybody else's. But we share a common idea that, hey, we're exploring together. We're going out there and checking it out. And based on our feeling, our experience, we at least a little bit about what is likely reality at this point, which is 100 years old, which means the Matrix is like taking us 100 years into the past. And there's another Matrix that's more advanced that's taking us 100 years into the future. But where are we now? And what can we do about it now? And all we can do is be honest and share and communicate and then go try and manifest, create that reality, right? And I'm into that. I'm into both sides of that. Um, Obviously, even if I could create things that the human race could use for their advantage in ways they don't even understand, that unless there's a demand for it, it ain't going to happen. And so in the end, the collective neutronic human race of fear and undissertation is the deciding factor of what comes out and when. It's the only real democracy is the sacrifice somebody's willing to make out of their value pocketbook exchange to invest in something. And right now I can tell you that for technologies that I can prove that are worth $1 billion overnight when done to scale, there's next to nobody in this country who has the money to fork out even a minor ditch in that alphabetic developmental scenario to scale. None. Meaning the wealth in this country is a complete illusion. There's no wealth. The people who have the most money are the poorest. And until they start to put their energy in the right direction and quit acting like a bunch of monkeys are going to knock down their walls and just, strangle them. Because that's almost what the behavior is like is, I have compassion for all of it. Like if it's stuck in fear, the wealthiest people in this world are the ones most stuck in fear. And that's why they're the wealthiest. They can never have enough backup. And when they do shit wrong, they're not willing to really pay for it because they just pay for it with money and it's a lie. And that black magic and that bullshit tricks, like that bet's getting called. Everybody's seeing it. At some point, that has to change. And it will. Like, it's inevitable. Short skirts, long skirts, tall socks, short socks, big hair, little hair. It'll change.
Hey, I just gotta ask, do you have a voice changer app on active or anything? Because like your voice completely changed in a matter of minutes. Like,
Nah.
honestly, yeah, it sounds interesting. I'm not sure if it's just me, my computer, your phone, or something's going on. But yeah, your voice is. You sound like you're in your 20s or your teens or something.
No. Sometimes, if you channel a little bit more from your heart, like it'll change. You know what I mean? Sometimes I get a little worked up, but not like that's my release. Is I used to get really pissed off and piss everybody off because I'm a little bit like you in that if somebody argues something that I have experience with and I know they don't, and I'm trying to be nice, like trying to be soft and suggestive, and they're like, "Oh, you fucking, that fucking bullshit and this and that dumbass and that," and they give me an example about how my idea is stupid because in the past, like they listened to somebody who had a similar idea and it all didn't work out. Like that kind of shit, like will trip my trigger. And there's a change in energy that I don't hide, right? I'm a terrible liar. I'm a fucking horrible liar. Like I can't hide anything. Like the most beautiful woman in the world and the most powerful businessman, if they say something that trips me the wrong way, I will show my disgust to them like instantaneously. And they know it. And I don't even know they know it. I'm just speaking from my heart. You know what I mean? And like, I don't give a shit if you don't like me or you hate me or you try and ruin my life. Like, you can't, you won't. And I'm being honest, and that's more than I can say of operating out of fear. Like, I'm operating out of love. I'm operating out of truth in my heart. And it could be wrong, but the intention is not wrong. Right. And usually I won't pipe up on anything that I don't have direct experience with. I won't get passionate about something that I haven't already seen and done. And I'm trying to like move it forward. Right. And when people just shit all over it for some dumbass reason, like the president said this, or this guy, Elon Musk said that, I'm just like, fuck those fucking matrix idiots. Like, Jesus, I'm failing to get the point across that egotistical bullshit does not matter. What matters is what is reality that we can manifest. And if I'm saying that, I'm putting my bet down that I can back up what I'm saying to the point where you will go, holy shit, now I know where you're coming from. But I'm not going to do that publicly. Like, I tried that. Like, in my public was not the internet. I never went on the internet. I didn't have a smartphone. I avoided all that shit and I lived in my worldview. In that worldview, enough people pissed me off where I was literally like, you dumb motherfucker. For one, you criticize me enough so I can criticize you. And I go nasty quick on when you like judge someone. And so when somebody tries to coyly judge me for offering like facts, that is not fact for them. Holy crap, my dog's going ape shit. It's not fact for them, but it's a fact for me. And I want to share that like beautiful thing. And they're like, oh, fuck this. Let's just keep driving this thing into the oblivion. And that's frustrating. It's frustrating to the point where it trips me off. And I've had to learn to be diplomatic because I burn a lot of bridges that I probably shouldn't have burnt. And at the same time, that's life. Like, I'm on this journey now and I'm doing what I'm doing. And I would enjoy talking to you more than like Joe Rogan because I would have to like prepare. Like, Joe Rogan's really good at like doing that coy, like, well, what do you say about the people who say this? You know what I mean? And I would just be like, fuck those fucking idiots. Like, and he would be like, whoa, they're smart. They make a lot of money. They're the leaders of society. And you're John Butts. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and you're Joe Rogan. Like, who fucking cares? What are you doing exactly? Like, we're all doing things, but we don't really know the outcome. We're just doing the best we can. I gotta let this chirper out.
Yeah, we're at the 3 hour mark. We can go ahead
Good
and
to
take
go?
a break or call it a night.
We can
And
call
have
it
you
a
back
night,
on in like
man.
2 weeks. Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
go ahead and have you back on in like 2 weeks.
All right, we'll see what we can do, man. My schedule's kind of wild now. It's kind of a melting pot right now of culminating things, so I'll do my best. But
Or
my
how about this? Just email me back. Let me know when
when
you
it's
can
good
go
to
ahead
roll.
and within the next 2 weeks, so you can go ahead and choose a day, like whether you want it tomorrow or next week, whatever.
Yeah, man. If I can find a hole in there, which I will, we'll do it in different ways, man.
Yeah. Hey,
I
man, it's
always
been awesome. You go ahead and take care of your dog.
all
Let them
right,
know where they can find you. Real quick.
all right, man. Well, yeah, naturalaction.com. That's our company. We basically use water as a stepping stone to kind of go through the porthole and get out of the kind of inefficient matrix and move into another matrix that's a better foundation. I guess that'd be the overall. So yeah, naturalaction.com. That's kind of the forward facing view of water and the universe and how it all works. And then, you know, other than that, you can get a hold of me through Joseph in any way. He's helping us do the good work.
Absolutely. We have my coupon code right down below. It's scrolling right now. 509DP-20 for 20% off.
It's all about transformation right now, and water's the best way to do it.
Yes, sir. Be
all
like
right,
water. Hey, peace out. Be blessed.
All right, take care, brother.
All right, guys. I have to thank you all for being here. This is a 3-hour episode. So until next time, my dear friends, namaste, be blessed, and be high.
Meditating, analyzing everything I see, so I see new horizons. Took the acid, feeling blasted in my brain, so I've been sitting up inside it, thinking about the present and the future. I'm improving cause I am a trooper, never getting caught up in the loop. Got up out it cause I found the truth. Woke up to a beauty of the day, yeah, the sun is shining, so I'm finna stay. Sitting, soaking up all of the rays, till I feel it surging through my brain like some burger sugar. Did a lot of cane, experimented with it, couldn't name all the times I did it, feeling like a fade. Yeah, I'm really, really glad that I let it go, cause I gotta be prepped for the time when the plane ride is a new norm. So I know I'm gonna stay high, blaze on the ganja, feeling like I make my music go to another level while I take off. I can't ever stop this, fell in love with it, fit like a glove, so I'm never ever done with it. So now I'm about to rip another beat, ayy. One day I'll make a million in a week, yeah, shooting for the top spot. Feel like I'm a hot shot, like I really got a chance with it. I will not flop, somebody gonna make it dance when I pop off. Gonna have all the bitches taking all the tops off. I've been feeling like I'm really gonna kill it for the rest of my life, so I've been staying focused. In my soul, I've been feeling like $1 million, so I know that everything is really getting closer. Yeah, no posers, only been hanging with the ones I've chosen. Only all the people that are living in the right way, cause they spending every day growing. Yeah, no whole shit coming in my life and then leaving in a moment. That's the shit I'll never let into my life again, cause lately I've been feeling like I'm golden. Never showboat, I just showcase on my music that I made this far. Always knew that I could be the one that would get this far. Now I'm right here looking in my mirror, trying to figure out if there's any more fear, cause I'm getting rid of it all, yeah. Yeah, I'm getting rid of it all. Meditating, analyzing everything I see, so I see new horizons. Took the acid, feeling blasted in my brain, so I've been sitting up inside it, thinking about the present and the future. I'm improving cause I am a trooper, never getting caught.